Welcome to episode 54 of TerrorVision Horror Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dan McGuinness, and joining me on the midnight meat train of madness terror is my co-host, Jennifer the Dream Warrior Strand. Every week we take one horror movie and cut it to pieces with our internet words. That's what we do. That's the whole point of the podcast. Together we are two people with a love of horror, and we feel the burn of our obsolete blockbuster Movieland memberships, meaning we cry because it's not the past. Aww. I just like to thank all of our listeners over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and the YouTube for supporting us. We love you and we can't do this without you. We can, but we won't. And we also like to shout out the people that interact with us over the week that help us grow in the community of Growo. So people like Mark of the Dan, Karina Conj.
Yep.
Like The Conjuring.
Yep.
You reckon that's what it is?
I reckon.
William Chappelle. You know you are, Will.
Yeah.
Adam Gillespie, Dion Cracknell, the boss man himself.
Yeah.
Bryn Phillips, Freak Child. Oh, Michael Towns, Freak Child. And Death Valley Funeral Home. I love that name.
Yeah, right?
Thank you for interacting with us over the past week. So we're going to get straight into our fun facts about ourselves. So my fun fact that I'm saying today is something that I mention every now and then, but I'm just going to clarify it with people, is that I am a published children's book author and illustrator, as well as owning a comic shop and some other things like that. So, yeah, that's when I mention like my work and my books and my drawings. It's not just me like drawing a picture, you know, in a subway and just palming it off for $4. Yeah, I actually get paid by Scholastic to draw the popular children's book series Hot Dog, which is penned.
Yes.
Penned by what's his name? Ando.
It's right behind you. Ando, yes.
Ando. I also have published like my own books through the years. Like I did a graphic novel series called Pilot and Huxley about 15 years ago, which is my favourite thing I've ever done. Like I really like that. I'd like to do more one day.
I was going to say, where is the return of Pilot and Huxley?
Well, I have written Pilot and Huxley before, but I just haven't done it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a dickhead. I'm a bloody toss-smoking dickhole.
It's because you're too fucking busy. You're always doing a thing.
Doing things.
Every time I see you, you're like, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
I'm an expert in this now. I'm like,
Yeah, I tried to like
Okay.
start something new at the comic shop today, like this week, like do new like live streams and stuff, and like there was like just do your work.
Why? Like the work comes in. You have to push the work to other people in order to get them to come in.
Oh, I've pushed work.
Yeah.
Braden has basically become me.
Oh, I love Braden.
Oh, who doesn't?
I love Braden.
He's a roly-poly beautiful man.
He is a beautiful man.
And you should check out his podcast as well, Millennial Movie Talk, where a whole bunch of young people talk about film.
Yeah.
And TV and stuff. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch, and there's like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
I was watching some of it.
There's a soiree. Oh, you're watching some?
Well, because on their Instagram, they've got like clips of them.
Yeah.
And they were talking about a lot of things, but because they are literally millennials, they are very young. They don't know what half of this shit is. And they're like, I've never heard of that. I'm sitting there
Yeah, but they do know a lot about film. Like, they've all
oh my
studied
God,
film.
yes.
Yeah,
They're very knowledgeable, but it's all the like, for you and me, it's common knowledge. It's like it was ingrained in us very early on. And
there
they're
are
like,
some...
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, there are some weird
that
things
is.
that they say every now and then, but that's why it's a millennial one, where they will say something like, what's Weekend at Bernie's? Or something like that. And I'll be like, but how do you, like, you know, how do you not know, like, what that is?
Because they were born after the year
They're
2000.
like, who was in Major League? Who are these Sandlot kids? They're all sports ones. I'm doing. Anyhow, let's get... Oh, no. What about your fun fact,
My
Jen?
fun fact is I am not a published children's book author or illustrator. I have been published in Film Inc. magazine, and like I've said before, I did write a thesis. That's a whole other story. On
Cannibal Holocaust?
I did write a mini thesis on Cannibal Holocaust, actually.
What were your findings? Did it have findings, or was it just about?
It was more about the film, but also about the whole found footage genre as a whole, because...
So it is found footage, Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
Actually, it was on that... what's that found footage... there's that whole found footage... There's a new streaming service which is just found footage films. And I bloody forgot what it's called. But yeah, I saw that on there. I couldn't believe how many found footage films there are.
I know, there's so many.
And because they're such an easy thing to make. Like, you can just grab an idea and go film it and just do it if you do it in a good way.
Yeah.
And like the more ambiguous you are with them, the better they look, kind of thing. That's why Blair Witch was such a cracker.
Oh my God.
Just like
such a great film.
a bunch of turkeys running outside of a tent, hitting it with sticks, turned into like a cult classic.
Yeah, I love it.
Anyhow, let's move on to our spoiler cast. Yes, every week Jennifer and I set ourselves a horror movie to watch, and then we go through it scene by scene, spoiling the fuck out of it. It's a deep dive into glorious gore, hard edits, cheesy acting, directing madness, severed wangs, and compound fractures. Basically, by the end, you don't have to watch this film because we watched the shit out of it.
Oh, we watched the shit out of it.
We watched it so hard, our eyes bled and our dicks curled. It was wicked. We have a rating system. What is it?
Okay, so for everybody playing at home, our rating system goes a little something like this. We've got the A, awesome, everybody should watch. B is a beer and chicken wing group movie. F is for fun and dumb. C is a classic that's worth a watch. U is underrated. We've got the newly appointed O, an overrated motherfucker, which I'm kind of keen for. We've got G, good for its time but is not held up. We've got the J, Jen special. The D, Dan special. We've got a W, whatever. We've also got the Kesha, low budget hot mess. C minus, craft is stellar but I hate the content. And the cream of the crap, the McConaughey. It's the fucking fucked. We watched it, so you really don't have to.
When you say cream of the crap, do you all just like envision someone grabbing a turd and like crushing it in their hands and whiteness coming out of it?
Yes.
Same here. So this week I decided that we were going to watch Beetlejuice from 1988.
Oh, so cute.
I haven't watched this film in a long years. A long years. At least 10.
I usually watch this film maybe once or twice a year.
But I did watch it a bum load when I was younger. I knew every line. I was saying them. I was when I was taking my notes, I was writing my notes before stuff happened. Yeah. So I could just watch it.
This film is so quotable as well. Like,
it's weird, isn't it?
It's insane. And I'd just like to start with, I've just found out that both my mum and my girlfriend hate this film.
That's bullshit.
And
you should disown and dump.
I've cut both of them out of my life. I don't need that kind of
Double D them. Disown and dump. Anyhow, what are its statistics?
All right, so Beetlejuice 1988, directed by Tim Burton.
Who's he?
Some guy.
Some turkey.
Some guy. Screenplay by Warren Scarron.
I actually don't know who he is.
Me neither. It's great cast. Alec Baldwin.
Oh my God, I can't believe it's Alec Baldwin.
It's Alec Baldwin.
I can't believe it's Jack Donaghy.
It's Jack Donaghy.
He looks nothing really like him that much, except for a couple of shots when he's pouting.
Yes, he has a face like a cat's bum
but
when he's
pouting. His
voice
has 100% changed.
Yes.
Like 100%.
Well, I'm guessing years of smoking cigarettes.
Does he smoke?
I don't know. Drinking alcohol and fraternizing with women. It's going to change.
It's weird though how different his voice is. Because so many people's voice stays the same basically their whole life after they get past like 20. But yeah, anyhow, Gina Davis.
Yep. Winona Ryder in, I think this is one of her first film roles as well. Michael Keaton and the beautiful Catherine O'Hara.
Man, that is a cast, isn't it?
That is a cast. It's so good. The budget was $15 million and the box office gross was 84.6.
I love a good film that makes money.
Yes.
I hate it when there's a great film that doesn't make money. What's wrong with everyone's fucking bum ends these days?
Because people are dickholes.
I know.
That's exactly what it is.
Fucking swirling dickholes.
Yes.
Okay, what's its tagline and synoppo?
He's guaranteed to put some life in your afterlife.
I didn't know that. I've never even seen the... Is that on the cover?
I don't know if it's... Well, you know, films always have like 2 or 3 different like taglines. Yeah. And they're like, which one sounds better? Thanks to an untimely demise via drowning, a young couple end up as poltergeists in their New England farmhouse where they fail to meet the challenge of scaring away the insufferable new owners. They come in and want to make drastic changes. In desperation, the undead newlyweds turn to an expert Frightmeister? What the fuck is that word?
It's a new film coming out. Frightmeister.
Frightmeister. Next scary. But he's got a diabolical agenda of his own.
I don't think he did. I think he made it up right near the end.
I don't think he had I think he's just...
Well, he did, but he didn't.
He's just a dickhead.
Yeah, I had no idea it was in a New England farmhouse because no one has English accents.
No, New England. It's not in England.
What's New England?
New England's like Vermont and idyllic sort of country America.
My arrogance is showing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I just assumed. Anyhow, let's start. What happens? It opens with music.
Yeah.
A slow version of Day-O.
It's very synth as well. It's got this synth Day-O.
Now, I don't even know what the Day-O song is called.
I think it's called Banana Boat.
Banana Boat?
Yeah.
Come, Mr. Tallyman. Yeah.
Yeah, title.
Yeah, so this is like, it's kind of that slow version of that. Black screen. The title comes up. It looks like it's made, so it's a full screen title, just white on black. And it looks like it's made from a potato stamp.
Yes, it really does.
It looks like they just carved it out of a potato and stamped it onto the screen.
Oh, shit. The things we learned in play school. Yes. We get this delightful pan over a sort of a forest. With
Like a chopper shot.
Yeah. It's a nice cast title. Opening up over it, you know, Alec Baldwin.
With chaotic strings and a wind piece. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like... and we see this very idyllic white town. So everything is pretty much painted white. All the houses. It's small.
It's a very Scando looking kind of town, but not too Scando. But it's very retirement vibe.
Yeah.
I would like to go live in this town.
Yeah, I would love to
And
live
it's very,
in this town.
very small.
And you know that some part of it is haunted.
And then at some stage, this helicopter shot turns into a model. But I can't work out where it is. And I kept thinking, no, that's it. That's where it is. I rewound it. And there's a bit where it's obviously one where there's a little model man that's in there.
Yeah.
But like, ones that I thought were the model, I reckon they weren't. I reckon it's just like really well done. Like,
this is so well done because it pans up.
And when we say model, we mean like a train set. Yeah.
Yeah, so someone's recreated a model township, basically. So it pans up to this beautiful, beautiful house on top of a hill. And as it's sort of focused on it, this tarantula or some kind of very large spider starts to crawl over it, which is cool. Very 1950s.
And then we get young Jack Donaghy.
Yes.
Adam. He's the main character who is, what's his name?
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin. He picks the fucking spider up. He's like,
Yes.
oh, look at it. It's like picking up, if you find like a gecko.
He's not afraid of spiders, unlike you, Dan.
Oh, man.
But you would go and pick up a gecko and put it somewhere else?
Yeah.
I would not. I would run and
I just feel that
scream.
spiders, especially tarantulas, don't they have like little hairs on them that attack you as well? Like they
Yes,
shoot at it.
tarantulas do. This was probably just a large house spider.
It was fucking large.
It was big.
And he's like, you're a big one. And he like flicks him out the window and it dies.
He does. So as he like throws it out of the window, you see that the town that we've just seen pan up is the town outside.
Yes. So from real town to model to real town.
Yeah. So he walks back and we see that he has just created this full replica of the town.
And I love models. Don't get me wrong.
No, it won't.
I've mentioned once or twice that I like Warhammer. And I love like model making train sets. Claire, my wife, she loves train sets as well. We're planning on doing a train set when we get to
yes.
super old.
Super old. Why not do it now?
Because I don't want to. Because I'm concentrating on Warhammer.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I just the act of model making is such a relaxing, beautiful thing, and I just seeing someone who's like painstakingly recreated their hometown is so nice.
And it shows that there is such a love for the town that they live in as well. You know.
Yeah, and we get introduced to the next character, Barbara, played by Gina Davis, the lady that always looks like she's shocked or scared.
Yeah.
Like, "Bleh?"
She's like, I'm just really happy to be here, guys.
Yeah, she's like a Labrador.
She is. So she walks in and they wish each other a happy vacation and they start exchanging gifts.
Yeah.
So she's bought him some model paints, which is really hard to come across apparently, and he hands her some wallpaper.
They're banging on about like, we get to send our like, summer vacation at home, and I'm like, so this is their house,
yes,
but they don't live there. It must be like a holiday house, or
I feel that it's probably a house that they've recently purchased, and it's like their dream home. They've finally got the home of their dreams, and now they're just rather than going away and doing something, they're just going to spend that time together. Doing up this house that they've...
We never find out what they do. It doesn't really matter. And
he owns the model shop.
And they start kissing on the couch. Yuck. He also owns a hardware store, which isn't really explained until like later.
No.
And even then, it's not really explained. It's all about the dialogue in this. And now they kiss, they have whatever.
It's cute. They're adorable.
Someone knocks on the door and they keep pulling each other back to have more kisses and they laugh and I'm like, fuck off.
I think it's cute. You think it's disgusting.
I think it's disgusting. I think.
So we hear this car horn beeping and they start racing down the stairs. And he's just like, no, I did it last time. And he bails down to the basement and she answers the door and we are introduced to Jane, who who is a very annoying either real estate agent or just a local busybody.
Well, I thought that she was an annoying neighbour, but later on in the film, she says that they were family. She's Auntie Jane. I think she's actually like one of their relations who lives in the town.
Yeah.
I think they grew up in this town
She was also the real estate agent.
as well.
Yeah. It's a small town. So she's there to sort of say, look, you know, your house, it's beautiful. Like, there was a couple from New York. They're very interested in the house. And, you know, Barbara's, no, like, we love this house.
She
We're
drops
not gonna
the
sell
bomb and is
house.
like, it's too big for a family. And then you're like, and then
Yeah.
Barbara's all sad. It's like, they don't really say much of this, but you get the idea that they've tried for kids and they can't have kids.
Yeah. So she's kind of offended Barb by saying, look, you know, this house is
Too big for you guys.
Too
It
big
needs
for
a
a couple. You need children.
Anyway,
So
she fucks her off.
She pisses off and she leaves. We cut back down to Adam, who is in the basement, and he chucks on some calypso music on his cassette as he's fiddling around with stuff. He walks over and opens up the window shade to see Jane's face pressed against the glass, and she tries to start telling him about the people in New York.
He's
and
like,
he's just
go
like,
fuck yourself, Jane.
no, fuck off. He closes the shades, and then he immediately calls out to Barb that he needs to go into town because he needs some new brushes and model paint.
Which is from his store, which
Yes.
I found really weird. Like, yeah, which I didn't get. Anyhow, they get in the car. They
Yeah.
drive into town. We get this amazing shots of the area. It's all green and lush and Green Gablesy.
Yep.
They go across they've got like the little built-in red bridges
Yeah.
that look like barns across the
Yeah,
river.
the bridges of Madison County bridges.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
They stop in the town. He runs into his hardware store. There's a little bit of back and forth between an old codger.
There's not even some back and forth. Like, he rocks up to the hardware store, and he's the local barber, so he's this old guy sitting out front. He starts telling him a story. He just kind of walks right
And I'm
past
like, yeah, cool,
him,
man.
opens the door. He goes in. You can still hear the guy talking while
Telling
he's
the
in
story.
the shop.
Yeah,
and then
back
he
in the
walks
old
out and he's
days.
like, yeah, okay, bye. And he's like, oh, okay.
And then they start to drive home.
Yep.
We go to and a bloody menacing shot of a dog walking near the enclosed bridge near the lake.
Very slowly across the walkway towards the
Like
bridge.
Jack Russell or some shit.
Yeah.
Little dog. Gross
cute.
little dog.
Of course, they don't see this dog walking exceedingly slow across, and they swerve to avoid hitting it. But unfortunately, they go through the wall of the bridge, and the car is hanging there.
The barn bridge.
Yep. The only thing stopping them from falling is the dog balancing on
A precariously placed
a bit of wood.
bit of wood. It's ridiculous. It's a joke.
Yep.
Anyway, so they're there half hanging out. They're like, don't jump off, dog. And of course, the dog jumps off. The car falls into the bridge. The car sinks to the bottom of the river. Fade to black.
Fade to black.
Then-
Open up to cuckoo clock chiming.
Oh, yeah. What?
It's a cuckoo clock.
Oh, yeah. Cut to a cuckoo clock going cuckoo, and it's 6 p.m.
Yeah. The fire mysteriously just turns on by itself. I would assume that it's on a timer, but that's just me. Adam and Barbara walk into the house and they are absolutely drenched,
yeah.
soaking wet.
They just fell into a bloody lake.
It's true. Barb walks in and she's like, I don't remember turning on the fire, but they still sit in front of the fire and they start drying off. They're drying their hands in front of the
And
fire.
it's already got a
nice.
weird tone at this point. So the editing has gone a bit weird. Like, it's like, it shows the fire lighting. It's got this really ominous music. It's now like this weird, really red twilight outside coming through the house. There's a lot of lighting in this film. A lot of ham-fisted lighting, but I think it works.
Yep.
And you're like, ugh. And this is like I wrote a note here. This is 8 minutes into the film.
Yep.
All this has happened. Like, they've already established who the characters are, the place, all these sub-characters. They've already got it going. There's already been a crash, and that's 8 minutes into the film. That's including the credits as well. Mm-hmm. So good.
I know.
It moves so quickly.
It really does. It's fantastic. And
Then Barb walks in, she goes, I don't remember lighting that fire.
Yep. They sit down in front of the fire. They start warming their hands, and there is a burst of fire, and her hands catch on fire, and she sits there and she's looking at them, and the two of her fingers are kind of lit.
Like she's not in
candles.
pain. They're just on
No.
fire. Like,
She blows them out, and she kind of looks very startled and surprised, as Gina Davis does. So once they dry out,
and then we get like an outdoor shot of the house, like showing it. It's all this really red dusk,
Yep.
like really cool. And then, Adam starts he goes, oh, something's not really right. He goes, can you even remember how we got back from...
So they really just don't remember. And he decides that he's going to leave the house and backtrack to the bridge to see...
Like, what happened?
Where's
the fucking car?
You know, and he walks out the door, and this is a really cool scene as well, because as he walks out the door just onto the front porch, we get this flash of light.
It's kind of the camera pans up over his head really close, and a spotlight goes onto him.
Yeah.
Which, like, white balances out the shot, and then when it comes down behind him from going over him, he's in a different place.
Yeah.
They use this trick a couple of times in the film. I really like it. Like the wind and a spotlight. And a sound effect.
And he starts, it turns out he's in a completely different world. He's in like this sand world, which we find out later is apparently Saturn.
Yeah, so it's
very Dali-esque.
It's got really yellow sand.
Yeah.
It's got red kind of weird rocky tree structures, and it's got a really oversaturated sky, but there's other planets in the sky as well.
We hear this, like, he starts looking around. He's like, what the fuck? And we start hearing this weird sort of growly sound. And he turns and we see something moving past, like moving towards him.
Like a sandworm.
Like a sandworm. like from June.
Yeah, basically from June. And now Barb's arms come in from somewhere.
Yes.
And pull him back out. And she's like, it's now night. And she's like, you were gone for 2 hours. And this is one thing I like to say about this film. I like how time works in this film.
Yeah.
Because, we'll get into it later, but like, there's little subtleties in this film I've noticed now that I never noticed as a kid.
Yeah.
I just took it for face value. I was just waiting for the next gore or monster to come up and stuff like that. But there's like really complex ideas in here about like what it's like to be these people. And we'll get into it.
Well, it's like when you rewatch The Simpsons as an adult and you actually get the jokes that they're telling because you're an adult.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So he's back from this other world and he's gone for 2 hours. He was only there for like 4 seconds.
Yeah. She's like, look, I need to show you something.
So she's been there for 2 hours working shit out.
She's like freaking the fuck out. She walks him into the
study
living area and she's like, look, she stands in front of a mirror. She's like, no reflections. She picks up this little toy horse and walks it across the mirror just to convey that they have no reflections. And she's like, and there's another thing, that. And she turns and points out a book on the coffee table, Handbook for the Recently Deceased.
And I like this bit because Adam picks it up and he misreads it. And he's like, the Handbook for the Recently Diseased. And goes, dun, dun. And then she goes, deceased. And then he goes, deceased. And then it's like, dun, dun.
And she immediately just turns and she's like, I don't think we survived the crash.
Yeah.
So we cut to literally like a few minutes later. They're both upstairs in their bedroom. Barbara's kind of walking around. She's asking questions.
She's kind of panicked.
Yeah, she's very panicked. And Adam's sort of laying on the bed and he's reading through the book trying to make sense of everything.
I love the Handbook of the Recently Deceased. And it's like that old 1960s cover of it's like clouds and people pointing up to them or something. Yeah, it's just I've seen replicas of it before and I kind of wish I had one. Like,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and he can't make sense of it.
No, he's just like, this thing reads like stereo instructions.
And he reads like a passage out of it that makes no sense.
Exactly. And he's like, but look, this is going to take some time. We just need to calm down. It's fine. It's not a problem.
End scene.
End scene. We do now reach this new scene. It's very sort of a dirty black scene. We see candles burnt down to the wick. This gravelly voice like crumbled up business cards for Beetlejuice, the bioexorcist.
Beetlejuice.
Like, oh, okay. What is this?
And it's all close-up shot, so it's purposely not showing us like what's going on, even though it's kind of obvious because it's what the film's called.
Exactly. It pans over to someone reading a newspaper. Newspaper is called The Afterlife, and the main title for the article is "Sandworm Incidents Increased 13% from last year."
And he's like, "Goddamn sandworms!"
Goddamn sandworms. He's like, "Oh, it's just better time to find a job." So he flicks through the paper to the employment section, but instead comes across the obituaries, and he notices, the Maitlands.
I thought that the joke was like, that is the job section is the obituary for this guy.
Pretty much.
So the Maitlands are Adam and Barb.
Yeah. Cute couple, look kind of stupid too. So he's...
Cute couple, look kind of stupid as well.
And then he starts doing that like gross like like fat chortle laugh, which it's gross. We cut back to the next day. Barb is dusting the cobwebs in the attic, which
Oh.
I was like, dusting the
Yeah.
Sure. Anyway, Adam's looking at the model and trying to figure out, like, he's trying to place them in the model in the cemetery. He's like, where do you think we'd best be?
He's doing a thing as their funeral. He's putting their funeral in, and he's got the little like wreath with their names on it.
Yeah,
and
like
stuff.
that's really morbid, but also very cathartic, I think, in the end. She's still asking questions. Like, she's like, I just don't understand. Like, why are we here? Why can't we leave? And he's like, maybe we're in heaven. And she's just like, he's like, look, it's just the two of us in this house. She's like, if this was heaven, there wouldn't be any dust.
Yeah.
Yes. They immediately start hearing a noise outside. And they run over to the window to see that it's Jane. She's arrived. She's all dressed in black. She's got her daughter with her.
Which was a nosy neighbour from the start.
Yeah. They start like hanging out the window, calling out, waving,
Jane, Jane.
acting like fools, but she doesn't see them. She turns around, she gets back into the car, and they start like
They drive off.
reaching for the book. Yeah.
Yeah, they drive off, and that kind of like, as the car's driving off, it cuts to a sign of their house, which has a for sale sign on it with sold. Did not say someone has bought the house. Clearly, the people from the city.
It's about to elevate. This film is elevating.
All right, new scene. Next day.
Next day.
Next morning, they're in bed.
Yep.
Adam and Barb, they're snoozing.
Yeah.
And,
he rolls over and steals the blankets, as most people do.
And we can see that Barb is actually floating. She's not even in the bed.
Nope.
This is a funny joke because there's like a big, suddenly the house shakes.
Yeah, there's a
They
big
wake
rumble.
up. She wakes up and just falls and like sits up, but there's nothing said about it.
No.
She just pops up in her Gina Davis way on one side of the bed with her eyes massive, like looking around, like what the fuck?
Okay, I fucking love Gina Davis. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's like everything starts rumbling and shaking, and they run out of the room to the top of the banister at the top of the stairs, and they see a trunk roll through the front door and hit the banister. And then a woman, all in black, saunters in looking absolutely unimpressed by her new surroundings. Like, she looks like she has smelt a fart.
Oh.
She is unimpressed. And a man walks in from another room, and he's very excited. He's like, welcome home. And we are introduced to Delia and Charles Dietz.
Yep. So
Dietzes.
Delia is the mum, and I've written her down as a pretentious art mother.
Yes.
So she's like a full city art person,
Yeah.
like highly strung on medication kind of vibe person. Then you got Charles, the husband, who is just a dude he's a bad guy in the way that he's like a money man. Like, he works for a business that makes money by like probably stealing from poor people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he's not a bad person at heart.
No, I kind of get the impression that because he's like this guy who like buys up properties and sells them and tries to get investors and stuff. But I feel that because he's out there, like his whole thing is I'm out here to relax. I feel that he's like had a bunch of heart attacks and the doctor's like, if you don't relax, you're going to die.
And he's played by a
he's just
pedophile in real life.
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones. He's apparently not a very lovely guy, but
Fuck him.
okay. Anyway,
And then we get, is Lydia in it yet?
not yet.
All right.
So he's like walking around. He's like, I love this house. This is great. And he stands there and he points out the kitchen to her, to Delia. And he makes a comment about, he's like, oh, look, you look at that kitchen. You'll be able to make all these delicious dinners. And she kind of just looks at him and
But finally you can make a good dinner.
like the look she gives him is a look that would land her life in prison. I tell you what. She looks around again and she's like, look, a little bit of gasoline, blowtorch, not a problem. This is sorted. And then the removalists bring in a chair and plonk it down, and we are revealed a very young and very 80s sort of synthwave goth, Winona Ryder.
Who's Lydia,
Dietz.
who is the most like stereotypical goth. Her lines as. Then again, it is the 80s, so she's.
Well, she is. This is the benchmark.
This is goth.
This is goth. This is every goth. I'm gonna say it. Every goth from here on out.
It's her.
It's her.
Yeah, she's a good goth.
They've based it, yeah. She's got a camera in her hand. She's dark circles on the eye, very pale face. So she's very
She's got like a mousse fringe.
Yeah, it's-
remember mousse?
It's very pointy.
Yeah.
I bet if you like rubbed it, it would just get really crusty.
Crunchy. Yeah.
She looks around and she starts taking photos.
That's what goths do. They take photos.
They take photos.
They use film because film is dark.
It's a dark room.
Dark rooms. Red dark rooms. Anyhow, this is really weird. I was talking to you about this earlier. Like, So as a young person watching this, you're obviously supposed to not like the mum Delia as a pretentious art idiot.
Yep.
And you're supposed to like Lydia as like the cool like goth that you're supposed
Artistic
to like.
goth.
Yeah, that you're supposed to like, bond with as the person who you get. But as an adult, I think her and her mum are exactly the same. They're both pretentious fake fuckheads.
Tell us what you really think.
I think the dad is like a dodgy dude, but I actually thought he was the nicer one out of the family.
Quite possibly. I mean, yeah, that it is what it is. But I think because, she's sad and depressed, that's one thing. But the mum's just like, I don't know, probably like riding the ketamine train. She's just having a good old time.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think ketamine was really around in the 80s, was it?
I don't know. I don't know. It was the first thing that came to mind.
Coke was the whole 80s
Oh,
thing.
yeah, very coked out. That's fine. So the removalists start bringing in crap, and Delia runs over and she's like, "Look, this is my art. I didn't buy this art. I've made this art. This is my art." And the guy just stares at her blankly and just kind of like shoves it on the table.
It's this big like grey ball thing.
It looks terrible, but
it looks like Tim Burton made it.
I was gonna say it does look terrible, but it looks like Tim Burton.
I think it might be Tim Burton's art or his wife's or something like that.
Yeah, it looks Tim Burton.
Hang on, Tim Burton's wife. Is it Marla Singer at this time?
I'm going to say yes, because I don't think he married Helena Bonham Carter until like the 90s.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know.
Anyhow.
I like this as well because Charles immediately sits down in a rocking chair and he starts like rocking back and forth, but he's like absolutely like shaking his knee. So you're like, when you get really anxious and you sit there and you start like you're bouncing your knee and then you're just tapping on the and he's like, look at that, 10 minutes and I'm completely at ease. And you're like, you keep telling yourself that, mate. You are not at ease. You are really highly strung right now. And so
and Adam and Barb are watching all this and they're like, she's like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
All right, we can't have these people living in our house. And he goes, well, there is something we can do. We're ghosts.
He got so excited. He's like, we're ghosts.
We're ghosts. Or did you say there's a word for someone else?
Yeah.
People in our situation. Ghosts. And then we get, at one stage,
we're introduced
to
to
Otho.
So Delia and Charles is having another conversation and Otho, this very heavy-set man, starts trying to climb through
the window.
And they're like, what are you doing? Otho, what are you doing? Like, why are you coming through the window? He's like, it's bad luck to walk through the... Like, he is a guy... Like, his personality is you just want to punch him in the face.
He's basically what a naturopath conspiracy theorist is these days. Like, he believes in all that crap.
Yes, very much
and
so.
he's like, everything he thinks is like etched in stone. Everyone else is an idiot.
Yeah,
he's like an art... He's like a life advisor to Delia or something? Or an interior decorator.
I feel he is a number of things. I feel that he is a drug dealer, an interior designer, and a life coach.
Because at one stage he mentions that he used to be a paranormal investigator as well.
and a chemist.
Yeah, and there's all this.
He's a jack of all trades, but he's very pretentious. He's just like, yes, I can do a lot with this house, but it's gonna cost you a fortune.
Yeah, but he's a good character. I think he's a funny.
He works very well with the whole vibe of the film, so it's great.
Yeah, Delia and Otho, they start to go through the house, deciding where they're going to renovate it, kind of thing. They take some spray cans with them. This is a very weird scene because none of the shit they're saying makes sense.
No, well, again, it's this very sort of pretentious art world. So she walks in and she's like spray paints mauve, like mauve. So it's going to be like mauve.
Yeah. In mauve as well?
In mauve. And he's like, you read my mind.
Yeah, they're choosing colours, what they're going to do to the walls. But they don't mention that's what they're doing because later on you see all those colours in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
And so at this point... Adam and Barb are kind of setting themselves up to scare these people. So Otho and Delia come to a closet. They open it up and we see Barb in there hanging on a noose and they're like, and then she reaches up and grabs her face, pulls off her face and she screams with a skeleton and her eyes fall out, which is wicked.
It's so good.
And then they just go, look how small this closet is. Like they can't even see her. Like, but like this is where it starts to get rad. I'm just like, this is great.
Yeah,
like
it's so good. And so
and they just push her aside like a coat.
Yeah, Otho's just like, oh my God, we just have to pray that the other closets are bigger than this one. And they push her aside. They pull out, they find their wedding attire in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, look, Ozzy and Harriet.
As in Adam and Barb's old wedding gear, yeah. So yeah, there's this whole scene of like them trying to now like little scenes of them trying to scare the people, but they don't realize that they can't be seen. Well, they do realize that they thought they could. Anyhow, next they go to Otho and Delia go to the study, and we can see on the ground as they open the door, Adam is on the ground like with his head chopped off, with all blood on the ground, and Barb is standing there with his head in her hand and a knife, like going ah.
She's got the sleepaway camp smile, that whole thing.
But they just don't even see him.
No,
they're just kind of like they're just like frozen in this like pantomime like froze of like what. They can't even see us.
Charles, the only jump scare is when Charles jumps out and he's just like, no, I know what you two are doing. You need to leave this room. This is my room.
This is a beautiful study. It's like a giant wooden study filled with, it's weird they got all the furniture. It's probably just part of it.
Yeah.
It's like full of furniture, wooden furniture, mahogany, leather couches, books.
Yeah.
It's got like bird watching stuff. It's a very relaxing kind of man's office.
It's very much. And he's just like, you need to leave this alone. Delia just turns around. She's like, look, I am here with you. I will live with you in this hellhole, but I must express myself. If you don't let me gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take you with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
Just
not a problem. Just leave this room alone. She's like, okay.
Yeah, she's like,
and then they
very high strung.
Otho and Delia are on their merry little way.
And you get the feeling that Charles is a bit of a yes man to Delia.
Yeah.
But no one else, like.
I think so,
He's
his balls are in her purse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they start talking about the attic. What's upstairs? Oh, the attic's upstairs. Oh, attic space. I like that. Adam realizes that the attic, they've not locked
I forgot to close the attic.
And of course, his head is still in Barb's hands, and his body just gets up, runs out of the room.
I don't know how they did this, eh? Unless someone can put their head down and like... Yeah, so it just looks like a headless man running. Usually you can see when that shit's like green screened out or something like that, but yeah.
Yep, he runs out. He knocks into the banister with his butt as he goes because he's a little bit bottom heavy now.
Oh.
He goes running up the stairs past Otho and Delia, and
they get like a shudder.
Otho's like, "Oh, did you feel something?" She's like, "No." He runs past. He slams the door and locks it shut. So they realize that they can't get in. And Otho, he's very much that kind of guy that's like, you can't go in this room. He's like, well, all I want in my life is to go in this room.
Yeah, he's very suspicious and he's going to see, he wants the key for that room.
Yeah.
Anyway, Adam walks into the room and there's this really good shot of him putting his head back on. They do it really well because Adam's kind of headless body walks in, which you can tell is a bit animatronic.
Yeah.
And you can see his head on the desk, which is his head in real life, and he must be under the desk.
Yep.
But then kind of the body goes in front of it, and we see it pick up a head, which like must have been put on the desk, and it's really well done. Like it's a one-shot floor, and it puts the head back on. And I was like, that's good. That's some real movie magic. Like there's a lot of that weird movie magic in this.
Yes. And then Charles is Charles is in this room at the moment as well.
Yeah, because no one can see them.
He's sat at the desk and he's picked up some kind of like magazine as well. And even then, like watching him doing this, he cannot relax. Like he's kind of like shifting it. How do I
didn't actually get that out of him, but now that you mention it, his character's good.
Barbara at this point, she's had it. She storms out of the house.
At first, she's got kind of in his face. She goes, "What's the point of being a ghost if you can't frighten people away?" Like in Charles's face,
which is amazing as well because I couldn't imagine having to be in a scene where you can't react. You have to just pretend like these people aren't screaming in your face or they're having a funny conversation.
Yeah, and so she cracks the shits.
Yes,
and she's like, "Fuck this shit. I'm going to go outside." And I'm like, and as she runs out, she goes out the back door, and of course and Adam follows her, and they're transported to Saturn.
Yes.
Such a good idea.
They're both in Saturn, and of course the sandworm is making its way towards them. And we see this. It's that very Tim Burton-esque kind of thing. It's this giant...
This was Tim Burton, though, before I think Tim Burton was Tim Burton. Like, I can't think of any film before this. So when people saw Beetlejuice, it had this style that no one had seen, which is the Tim Burton style we all know now.
Yeah. I think
the black and white stripes and stuff.
the only thing he really did before this was like Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Did he? What, Herman? Pee-wee Herman?
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, I know.
Anyhow, so the sandworm, we see the shot of the sandworm come out, and it's like stop motion animation, very a la Night Before Christmas style.
Yeah.
And it's this black and white worm, like it's striped, which is very Tim Burton, and it opens up its mouth, and then another head comes out of its mouth.
Yep.
And then the one inside opens its mouth, and then its tail comes out of its and comes out of its mouth. It's got two mouths. Very hard to explain. Very, very cool.
Yeah. And it sort of comes down towards them, and we think, oh, fuck, they're in trouble. But, of course, like, Barb ain't taking no shit from no one. She fucking punches it in the face.
And it goes, oh! So, and it shows that the sandworms aren't as threatening as you think they are.
They're up 13% because Barb's not here kicking ass. There's a door just behind them, so they just basically
I like that the
turn
door
around.
is just floating in space. It's not like there's a door on the ground. Yeah. So they run back inside and they're back in the house, and you realise that they can't leave the house because they go to Saturn.
Yeah.
But
so we get this shot now. We cut straight to the Dietzes. They are sitting around the dinner table. Lydia is wearing a black veil over her face.
It's like a funeral gown.
As if she's like a widow of this very rich Italian man that's just died. And Delia's wearing a pair of gloves as a headband, which is really cool.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's cool. So they're having this basic, like, oh, this is our first family dinner in this home. Like, this is really nice to be here. Neither of the women want to be there. They hate it. And then Charles starts talking about creating, it's like, look, once we've done the renovations, once we've settled in, we'll make you a dark room in the basement. Would you like that, honey? Would you like a dark room in the basement? And, of course, she sits there and she's just like, my whole life is a dark room. She's very broody.
Very pretentious.
Very broody, yeah.
That line later, which we'll get to, when she talks about, like, how she can read the thing, is, like, the most pretentious goth line I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yes.
So Lydia doesn't hate it as much as her mum. Because when she first walks into the house, like, she sees a spider on the wall, and she goes,
I could live here.
Yeah, I can live here.
Yeah. So
and she kind of likes the idea of the house because her stepmom Delia hates it.
Yeah, well, it's that whole thing as well.
Yeah.
You know. Next day.
Yeah.
We cut to the next day, and the removalists and the renovators have all descended on the house. Lydia's walking around outside, and she's just taking photo after photo, like not even stopping to actually, focus or anything. She's just snap.
She might have a really fast film.
She might. Delia's screaming at everyone and just being Delia in all her glory. And
you can see her art getting transported in, and they've already started taking bits of the house down and like
adding different things.
I think they're adding like an outdoor weird, which I actually thought was really cool.
It is cool.
Some of the stuff they change in the house, I'm like, that's sick.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff I'm like, gross. I think the house itself is cool. It's just the color scheme's gross.
Yeah.
What they do to it. They've made it like really like modern.
Yeah, but too modern.
80s modern?
Yeah. Oh, bonitis.
Yeah.
Up in the attic, Barb and Adam are kind of watching all this happen, and they're
in horror.
They're just like, oh my God, this is like, we put all our time and energy in this house. They pick up the handbook, and of course a flyer falls out of it. And it is a flyer for Beetlejuice. It's written 3 times on the flyer, but the third one has been ripped from the bottom of the page. So every time we see it, it's generally covered by something. The third one's generally covered by something.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah. Charles, he kind of like walks into the kitchen. He's in his robe. He's there. He's got his kettle. He's there to make some hot tea. It's a beautiful morning. He's not fazed by anything. And
but also we get... Wait, back when that flyer comes out.
Yeah.
Because the flyer says on it that it's a Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Is the bioexorcist. You got trouble with the living called Beetlejuice or whatever his name is. But Adam reads it wrong here as well because he reads it as Beetlegeist.
Yes.
So this is a whole callback that Adam might be dyslexic.
He might be
because he keeps every time he reads something, like he read deceased as diseased, and I reckon that might have been a joke they were trying to put in the film, but it doesn't come across as you don't notice it.
Yeah.
That the fact that, and the whole thing, the linchpin of the film is that he doesn't say Beetlejuice. He keeps saying it wrong.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work to call Beetlejuice. Like,
it's fantastic.
and I like that kind of little vibe in him. And as someone who gets words wrong every single day, like, I relate to him, and I can see why she loves him.
Well, he is adorable. He is
Young Alec, young Jack Donaghy.
Jack Donaghy. So Charles is in the kitchen. He's filling up the kettle with water, and he's just kind of standing there, and he just looks very actual at peace for the first time ever. And of course, that is just shot to shit when fucking bam, this fucking sculpture comes crashing through the window, and it's this hideous, like, giant kind. It looks like one of those hair clips, claw clips that women put in their hair.
Yeah, but with a cube on the end of it. Yeah.
And of course, it gets wrenched out of the window. Delia's on the other side. She's screaming about it. And of course, somehow it manages to swing back and fully trap her into the wall. And she's just like, my art is dangerous. You need to be careful. And of course, this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Lydia, she's still walking around taking photos of the house.
It's kind of weird that the goth into photography, or do you reckon goths were into photography?
Yeah,
I think they were, hey, because I had a friend who was a goth and I think she was. Yeah, she's taking photos, and then she's like, of like, and then she looks up through the camera and sees two little faces looking out.
Mm-hmm. In horror.
In horror, she can see, but she looks she takes the camera away to look, and they're not there.
Yeah.
And she's like, weren't there just two faces in the window? And then Barb and Adam was like, that little girl just saw her. She goes, you couldn't have, but she did.
Yeah, she saw us.
And the nosy neighbour drives up.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Jane arrives at the house. Lydia immediately goes running to Jane's car, and she's just like... But I like as well that the little... Jane's daughter is in the back seat, and as soon as she sees Lydia, who is, like, fully decked out in black, as soon as she sees her running to the car, she just, like... rolls up the window. She's like, roll them up. Nope. Yeah. She's having none of this. And she immediately starts asking. She's like, look, what happened to the people that lived in this house? And it's revealed that, look, they died, they drowned, this, that, and the other. And then she hands Lydia a key, and she's like, oh, is this the key to the attic? She's like, look, this is a skeleton key. It'll open every door in the house.
Skeleton keys.
Make sure you give that to your dad. Lydia, however, has other plans because she herself is going to go up to the attic to check out what is up there.
Yeah, because she's just seen what she thought were people up there, and then just heard that the two people died.
Yeah.
And she's a goth.
You put two and two together, and
and so, like, you got Adam and Barb in the model room, and they hear someone coming up the stairs, and Adam's like, don't worry, I locked it, it was fine. And then they hear that there's a key going into the lock, so they run over and hold the door shut. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how ghosts do. Which is a heaps better way that they could have done some haunting through moving objects, because they can move objects, And as she's pushing on the door and they're holding the door, suddenly the TV comes on. And there's like an ad, and it's a Beetlejuice ad.
Yeah, I fucking love this. And again, so you'll notice that the sign that is above him says Beetlejuice twice, lit up, but then he's the third Beetlejuice. So it's not written 3 times. He's just sitting on this, like,
fake cow.
And of course, we don't see him all that well. We just see this thing. He's clearly got, like, a paunch belly. He's kind of overweight, and he's just, like, lassoing in the air.
He's dressed as a cowboy. He's like, you come down here and I'll do all this stuff and blah 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 blah. It's like a kind of it's like a late night telemarket ad.
Oh yeah, which is fantastic. He's like, I got demons running all through me.
Yeah, you want to. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense what's going on, and you don't even know where he is. It's weird because there's like the grass is like big bits of plastic.
Yeah. It's so strange. It's like, where is he? What is he? This is strange. And he's just like, act now. He's just like, free possessions with every, like, haunting. It's fantastic.
And then it's like, it just goes off.
Yeah. And then they realize immediately, oh shit, we were barricading a door. And he grabs...
Well, Delia kind of stops because she can hear something
and
faintly.
Sort of see it under
the door, like the door frame, yeah.
Yeah.
The door jamb.
Oh.
And then Adam gets a stick and he kind of pushes the key out from the other side, and Delia's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why did the key pop out? And then she just gives up.
But she doesn't leave. She sits there. She just sits there kind of like...
I think she's just listening.
Yeah. So Adam, then he's like, wait, I read something in the book. He picks up the book and he's like, yep. Okay,
It's like in case of an emergency part in the handbook of the recently deceased.
yeah, he's like, okay.
I like this bit.
Yeah, he's like, draw a door. And he grabs some chalk and he just draws like a big rectangle on the wall. And he's like, there. And she's like, Barb's just like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. She's like, maybe we should try the beetle guy. And he's like, wait. And he draws a little handle. And he's like, okay.
He draws it on the wrong side.
He does.
Because he's dyslexic. I know. It's Kate's come back. And then he's like, and she's like, nothing's happening. And he reads a bit more. He goes, knock 3 times.
Yeah.
So he knocks on it. There's like a brick wall in the attic. And of course, the door shakes. It opens up to like, organ music. There's green light inside.
So this green light illuminates under the door jamb, and you see Lydia's face is kind of lit up, and she's just like, what the fuck? And they walk through this door.
This is where I used to love it from, this film.
Yeah. Because this is where it starts to get cool.
Yeah, and like very idea based.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really been a film like this.
No, I don't think so. And they keep saying that
the
they're
ghosts
going to
are just the main characters, and like you get to see like the workings of the afterlife and how
frightness.
Yeah, but that was more like the main character was still Michael J. Fox, and he wasn't a ghost. There were ghosts in it, but yeah.
Anyway, we cut to Charles, and he's in the study, and he's kind of just peeping out the window. So he starts out bird watching, and he's looking through the bird watching book that's on the table. But then he starts, like, his attention is drawn to the town.
He's like, ooh, good parking.
Buildings. He's like, ooh, terrible roof, but great parking. And Lydia comes in, and she interrupts him, and he kind of looks like he's doing something wrong. So he's like, Rrr. He's like,
he's always on edge because the women in his life.
Well,
he's constantly trying to, get the approval of his wife and daughter, and they're constantly just shitting on him.
Pretty much. So she comes in, and she's coming to tell him exactly what she saw. She's like, I've gone upstairs. Like, I saw this in the attic.
He snubs her off,
and he's just like, fuck off. Like, you weird goth kids.
Go tell your mum.
Yeah, go tell your mum about it. We cut back to Barb and Adam. They walk through this sort of illuminated green fog into
a waiting room.
And
it's full of dead people.
And this is one of the greatest scenes ever because we see all of the different people there who have died.
So you got people like, there's like a woman cut in half. He's like half of her leg is sitting there on
so she's like clearly a magician's assistant.
Yeah, it's been sawed in half.
There's a shrunken head.
Guy.
There's a guy that's clearly been out to dinner and he's choked on some ribs because the ribs
there's
are
a whole rib in his throat.
There's a guy with a shark on his leg.
The shark died as well.
That's so good. They approach the counter to take a very long number. And it kind of just rolls out and just falls on the ground. So they knock on the window.
On the reception desk.
Yes. And they are greeted by Miss Argentina. And she's like, do you have an appointment? You have to wait if you don't have an appointment. And of course, she's beautiful.
They're like, wait for what? She's like, oh, you're caseworker. Didn't you read the manual?
Your caseworker, Juno. I love her accent.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah.
It's so good.
And we can see all these other skeletons in the background, working on typewriters and
civil
shit.
Civil servants. It's fantastic.
Civil servants in the afterlife.
They're
all suicide victims.
They are, yeah. It's true. Lydia, we cut back to Lydia very quickly, and she's gone upstairs. She's broken into the attic, and she flips on the lights to find the model of the town. And she also finds the handbook.
Before that, they just sit down and start waiting.
Yeah, pretty much. So they sit down. So she starts flipping through the book. We cut back to Barb and Adam. They're still waiting. This is great as well because Adam's sitting next to this man who is just charcoaled. He is just this completely burnt man. And his knee is also jiggling. He's got that jiggling.
Yeah, I thought it was a good little, because it's a puppet.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a good little, add-in to have his knee jiggling while he's waiting.
It's so fantastic. It's just it's the little things. And he offers him a cigarette and he's like, oh, no, that's fine. I don't smoke. And he's like, yeah, me. I'm trying to cut back myself. It's just like... And Barb, she kind of turns and she's kind of like resting on this armrest next to the shrunken head guy. She kind of looks a little bit weird. And she turns to Adam. She's like, is this what happens when you die? Miss Argentina obviously points out that this is what happens when each and every one
This is
dies.
what happens
It's
when
like,
he dies. This is what happens when he dies. This is what happens when they die.
she's like, it's all very personal. And if I'd have known then what I know now, I wouldn't have had my little accident. And she shows that she's like slit her wrists. I love the fluorescent, the paint on her as well, because it kind of glows.
Yeah, well, all that, there's like everyone in the afterlife seems to be, there's heaps of blue people.
Yeah,
like,
blue and greens. Like, oh man, her fucking, it's just so good.
and there's heaps of heavy Tim Burton lighting everywhere, which is like cool, and it gives it this weird kind of thing. Then from out of the door opens and their names are called, and there's this. It's hard to explain. A flat man.
Yeah.
He's been run over by a truck, and he's
Yes.
a completely flat man. He's held up like he's some clothes hung out to dry, like on a wire that goes back and forward.
Yeah, exactly. So they get called, and they're like, "Make sure you brought your book." And they're like, "Oh fuck, we forgot our book."
We forgot the handbook.
And they walk through.
Delia's back there reading it.
That's right. So they walk through, and this flat man, he's just like, "Oh, you know, do I look okay today?" And
There's
like,
no mirrors on this
like,
side.
there's no mirrors. Like, it's just like, "Do I look okay?" She's like, "You look fine." And he's like, "Yeah, that's because I was feeling a little flat." Ah!
And then he just kind of goes into like a slit in the wall, like thunk, like, and it reminds me of that Junji Ito thing where the people go into their holes in the fault one.
This is like, it's. I mean, you know me, I love puns, so I found this fucking hilarious.
And you know that this character says it to every single person because he thinks because he laughs. He's like,
it could have almost been Robin Williams. I honestly, for so many years, thought it was, but it's not.
yeah.
So they head off. They continue walking down this whole way.
And all their like the transitions in this are very like weird and kind of like cut between. It's like when they cut between rooms, they don't walk through a room; they just suddenly appear in a room, but they don't even know how they got there. Like, so these like bits of paper blowing in the shot and stuff, and it goes whoosh, and they're in another place.
Yeah. So they start walking down this hallway. So there's doors on either
very
side.
Tim Burton-y, like out of proportioned hallway.
Yeah, it's kind of like the floor's kind of, I don't know, like hilly, I guess. It's
just Tim Burton-y. You know how he just...
You know what we're talking. You can imagine it straight away. And they kind of open a shade to one of the doors, and we see all these spirits, these
dead
like
souls.
And they're like, "Well, that's so sad." And
a janitor's in there.
The janitor's in there, and he's like, "Oh, you know, this is the Lost Souls room. So this is death for the dead."
This is where exorcised souls go. So when you get an exorcist, you go into this room. It's death for the dead. Anyhow, they come to a weird room. Another one of those weird things, and it's like this weird kind of bluey lit kind of weird room, and like
it's almost like a granite.
Yeah,
it's
and they're
terrible.
Like, this place gets weirder and weirder, and then they suddenly freeze, and they realize that, and Barbara's like, this is our house.
Yeah.
So now they're back in their house, and it's completely
redone. It's completely like absolutely everything about it has changed. It's no longer really.
And they're like, how long were we waiting? Then from behind them comes his voice like, 3 months.
Oh, I fucking love Juno. I love her.
So
like
this is what I think. Like time for them moves differently because they don't have any time. So I love that idea. It's very Dr. Manhattan that like to them, they were there. To them, they didn't even realize it, but they've been sitting in that room for 3 months kind of thing. So time in our world has been going at its normal rate.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of vibe, and it's a great way to push a story along as well.
Exactly. Because otherwise you just sort of like, okay, well, how are we going to do this scene?
Anyhow, they're introduced to Juno, their caseworker, who's this old fucking lady.
Oh, I love her. So she's like this. She is short. So she should have been. I feel that she should have been Sophia Petrello. Like.
She's a golden girl.
She should have been a golden girl. Yes. She's small. She's got makeup on. She still looks like she's dressed from the 50s. She's smoking a cigarette, and of course.
And she's like a business lady. 50s. Yeah. She's a caseworker.
Yeah. So the smoke is blowing out of this. She's had her throat slit.
So she killed herself.
She
would
would
have
have
slit
killed
her
herself.
own throat.
Yeah.
But like it looks wicked. So every time she takes a drag of a cigarette, the
Just
smoke comes
comes out of it
all
as
out
well.
of her like her like throat hole.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Such a anyhow.
She's like, so she starts talking. She's like, you know, I'm here to determine whether or not is help needed. Do you deserve help, and is help available to you? And they're like, oh, is it available? She's like, no.
Straight away.
Straight out. She ain't got time for your shit. And they start to explain, we want to get rid of the people that are in our house. Like, she's like, get them out yourself.
It's a textbook haunting. Look up haunting in the handbook.
It's your house. Just start simple. And which I think is great because, like, a lot of what they're saying, because Miss Argentina early on, she's like, you probably even haven't read through the handbook. Like, it's only been 3 months and you're here now. Like, you guys are not going to... Like,
yeah, because earlier on the receptionist says like you only get 3 like help calls.
Yeah.
For like every 180 years or something like that. They say.
Yeah, exactly. And then Barb starts. She's like, well, what about the guy on the flyer?
Yeah, what about that beetle guy? And she's like,
nope.
Don't even say his name.
Don't want his help. She's like, I know he's skulking around your cemetery. So we're like, oh, he's in the model.
Yeah.
Great. And then she sort of immediately starts, she just kind of fades out.
No, she unlays the whole story here.
Yeah, okay.
She's like, he was like my assistant.
That's right.
And then like he went out on his own claiming as a freelance bioexorcist, claiming he can like get rid of the living. And she's like, and the way she says, like the way you bring him back is to say his name 3 times. And that's how, so he's kind of trapped until you say his name. Kind of thing. And then if you want to put him back, you say his name again 3 times. So it's really weird. He wants you to say his name. Yeah. But when he doesn't want you to say his name. I kind of like it.
Because he wants out, but he definitely doesn't want in. So, she just disappears out and they go off kind of feeling like...
Because now they're back home. Like that's how they go home. Like
they go off thinking, okay, well, we can start this haunting. This is going to be great. We cut to this fly buzzing. So this fly buzzing... and it buzzes down into the model.
We're getting it's like a POV shot of a fly.
Yeah.
So it's like we're seeing through fly's eyes flying through the town model. Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
It looks so cool.
And it's got this cool kind of exciting orchestra music going. The Beetlejuice theme is very cool.
Yeah. Well, it's Danny Elfman. Yeah. So he does most of Tim Burton stuff. It lands in the cemetery and a hand pops up from between like the grass foam.
And the grass foam looks wicked.
It does.
The idea of like the biggerness, like how they've like shown that it's the model and not real. It's just like, it looks great.
It does. And he's like, hey you. Hey. And it's like, he's like, you hungry? And he's like...
And the fly is stop motion animation as well. Yeah. And it looks really good. Like...
Yeah. And he like pulls out like a Zagnut bar and he's like, hey.
What do that?
The fly comes over and he grabs it and he pulls it into the ground. And of course we hear that famous like, help me.
From the fly.
And
he eats the fly.
Which is great. And he eats the fly. Yeah.
It's just like, just some more suspense to show that Beetlejuice is still there.
He's not out yet.
What?
Charles is on the phone to an investor, and he's some guy, he's like some big shot guy, and he's trying to convince him to come out to the neighborhood, come out and see the house. It's a good opportunity. We could buy up the town. These people don't know the value of their own homes. So it took him 3 months before he started working again.
Yeah.
Basically. You just know he's a bit of a dick.
He is a dick. But he invites the guy over for dinner.
Yeah, he's like, come
over for dinner.
Come, bring your wife, come down, check it out. The guy's just like, look, I'll think about it. And he kind of hangs up and he's like, putz. I love the word putz. We don't say it enough anymore.
Putzly.
It's putzly. And of course...
You hear some ghost noises?
Yeah, so while he's on the phone, we start to hear this like, whoa, whoa, happening. And he goes off to investigate. He opens the door and sees someone standing there with a sheet, the standard sheet and...
Eyes cut out
ghost. And he thinks it's Lydia standing in front of him pretending to be a ghost. And he's just kind of like fobs her off and he's just like, just tells her to scram, shuts the door, opens it up again, and he's like, your mother is going to kill you when she finds out that you've cut holes into her $300 sheets, and then just slams the door on her again.
Aww. And Adam's under the sheet and he's just like, this is...
Barb's just not she's just like, it's like
this is what we're reduced to?
You wearing sheets? He's like, think of them as death shrouds. I'm like, yes, death shrouds.
And yeah, they go into Delia's room. She's zonked out on the bed.
She's zonked out. The TV's on. But I love this as well because they walk in and they're going hard. So they're like, oh. It making the most
She's not even awake. I won't wake up.
Nothing happens. We cut to Lydia in the next room, and she thinks that they're fucking. She thinks that
this is her mum and dad having sex.
She kind of like gets up and she like bangs on the wall.
She
She's like,
out.
I'm a child in here. Like, don't do this. And of course, we cut back in and they're still making all their sounds. They're going even harder. And Delia kind of grabs the remote.
In her sleep.
And then she kind of sits up, eyes still closed, but one side of her face, like her eyeliner is smudged half across her face, her lipstick smudged half up her face, and her eyes still closed. She turns off the TV and just lays back down again.
Yeah, like, they give up. They're like, ugh.
They're like, oh, we're clearly not going to get her.
Yeah, they go out.
So as they leave the room, Lydia just starts taking Polaroid shots. She intended to go in and start taking Polaroids of her parents fucking.
No, I think it was more in case they just to catch them coming out.
Yeah.
Anyhow, she starts like taking heaps of Polaroids. And like Adam and thing like put up their hands like, oh, don't take our photos. Like she thinks it's their mum and dad. And she's doing some weird kinky sex act.
Kink play.
And then she picks up a Polaroid which is instantly developed, and she looks at it and she's like, no feet.
Oh,
there's no. And then she looks and goes, you're the people in the attic, aren't you?
Yeah. So she's not fazed by this at all, and she's like, what do you look like under there? And she's like, are you all gross? Are you all Night of the Living Dead under there? And he's like, what is that?
And they take off their...
Like, what do you mean?
They take off their sheets and then it's normal. She's like, you're not gross. Yeah. And gets all angry.
She's like really disappointed. And they're like, if I saw a ghost, and if I was a little girl and saw a ghost, I would be scared for weeks. She's like, it's fine.
Oh, no, she says, how do you see it? She goes, oh, well, I read in the handbook. And they're like, you can understand the handbook? And
she's like, yeah.
And she goes... This is the most pretentious line of it. She goes, I read in the handle that people, living people ignore the strange and unusual, where I myself am the strange and unusual. And I was like, oh, facepalm.
Fuck it. Sets a standard.
It's what every goth thinks that they are. They want everyone to think they're strange and unusual when they're really just fucking tryhards.
Fucking savage. So she's like,
there's
why?
No such thing as goths anymore. It's fine.
No, I don't really think there is there?
No.
I don't know.
Got replaced by emo, and then emo became like screamo, and then it just turned into no-mo. There's nothing now.
No-mo.
No-mo.
She's like, why are you in Delia's room? She's like, we were trying to scare her. She's like, oh, you won't scare her. She's sleeping with Prince Valium tonight.
Which I didn't get as a kid.
Why would you? And now I'm like, oh, I love sleeping with Prince Valium. That's my favorite sleep. They head up to the attic. And she's there. She's like, why are you trying to scare them out of the house? Like, what are you doing? And they're like, we just don't like your parents. We don't want them here kind of thing.
Yeah, my dad will never walk away from a deal.
He will never walk away from equity. Oh, that's fine. And she's like, well, what if this is all a dream? What if I'm like dreaming you? Like, you need to come up with a better routine because the sheets aren't working kind of thing.
Well, they're like, is there any way you can prove to me this isn't a dream? And they're like, no. And it's a really weird scene that doesn't have any relevance.
No, because they...
don't need to prove.
No, well, why would they? But also, like, they'd just done all these things, like the severed head, the face ripping. They'd just done those previously, and they can't do that in front of her. I guess as well, because they probably don't want to scare her. They think they're going to scare her.
Yeah. Anyhow, next day, cut to Delia. And she's getting ready for the dinner party. She's cooking frantically. She's in the kitchen.
She's making a fucking mess of it.
Yeah. And then Lydia walks in and just basically tries to tell her about Adam and Barb, and she won't have a bar of it.
Yeah. She's having none of it.
Yeah.
She starts getting mad.
And then cut to Adam and Barb. They're in the attic. They're getting a bit desperate.
Yeah, they're like, look, she's trying, but they're not having any of it. I think we've got to contact that beetle guy.
The beetle guy.
Yeah.
And then they see something flashing in the model. So this whole time when they're in the attic, the model's right in the middle of the room kind of thing because it's huge. You see something flashing and they're like, what's that? Like, what's that down there? And then like kind of Barb looks, she goes, look, it's him. Beetlejuice. Yeah. And she says it correctly, and they both realise that that's how it's supposed to be said. And then she kind of looks cheekily at Adam. I love this bit. And she goes, Beetlejuice. And she says it again, and then she just stops. And then he goes like, do it, say it again. And I love this bit. And she goes, Beetlejuice, says 3 times. And we get this cool, like one of those kind of weird shots where it zooms in close to them, overexposes itself, and then comes back out. And they're standing in the model now. They're tiny. And it looks great.
It does. It looks fantastic.
It looks like they're in a model, and they actually look tiny.
Yeah, so it's just like this black screen behind them. So there's nothing. It is all just black except for because they're in the cemetery with the green foam grass.
The grass looks great.
It does. It looks fantastic. And they walk up to the grave, and it says, "Here lies Beetlejuice," and there's 2 shovels. And she's like,
what do we do?
What do we do? And he's like, I think we've got to dig.
So they dig, and when it's digging, it's rad, because they're digging into this plastic, and then it goes into cardboard. But it's actually they've created giant cardboard.
Yeah.
And it's got like the corrugation in it and stuff like that.
That's what I love about this, because it's like layers deep, and it's like foam, cardboard. I think there's like some plywood in there as well. So they're ripping all this up. So it's just the attention to detail that has been put into this film that I freaking love.
You know, they've dug the grave up, they come to a coffin, and they're like, maybe we should knock. And the coffin starts to shake, and they jump out of the hole, and of course Beetlejuice flies up out of it. He's all dusty, he's got a jacket on and a hat.
Yes, he's wearing one of those like old school bus driver caps.
Yeah, he was mostly thinking he might have been a bus driver.
Quite possibly, yeah.
I wonder what he was, because he's dressed as... Anyhow, he floats up, and there's like this organ music. Yeah. And he's just like... And they're like, fuck! And they just bop his bolt.
Yeah, I think they're like, oh, we've made a terrible, terrible mistake. And they kind of run off. He kind of flies towards Barb, and he jumps down next to her, and he's like, oh, hey, Babs, like, give us a kiss. And he grabs her and
he talks so fast.
He talks so fast.
He talks so fast, and that's his thing. He's like, he doesn't listen to anyone saying, hey, what are we doing? We're going to do this. Oh, we're going to be best of friends. It's going to be great. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you don't even have time to say no.
No. Yeah, he's the kind of fast-talking guy that's like, all of a sudden, it's like you've just rocked up to his house, and he's like, yeah, we're going to go do like this. And then all of a sudden, you're in like this bowling alley, and you've killed like 5 people.
Yeah.
Just like, how did we get here?
Yeah, he's super overwhelming kind of thing. Like,
he is very.
And they're like, and he goes, first, what are your qualifications?
Yes.
And then he like, because he can do voices, because Michael Keaton.
Is Michael Keaton.
He goes, I actually attended Harvard Business School, and then I lived through the Black Plague, and that was pretty fun. And then and he keeps getting...
It's like, I've travelled quite extensively.
And I've watched The Exorcist 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every time I see it, not to mention you're talking to a dead guy. What do you think? And then he goes, oh, well, are you scary?
Yeah.
He goes, scary.
He's like, am I scary? We're like, wank.
And then like he does the best scene ever, like, he goes, how about this? And he turns around, and you see him from the back, and all this shit just comes out of his face. Like, it's really hard if you haven't seen it, and it looks great because it's a practical effect. Basically, we don't see what they're seeing.
No.
And it's like, there's all these like chicken legs and claws and shit just flies out of his face and goes, and then back into it. What do you think? And they're like disgusted. They're like in shock.
They're like, oh, we've made a terrible, terrible choice. And they kind of start trying to get out of it. They're like, look, I just like, we maybe, I don't know. And then he's like, his head starts to like shake, and then it just sort of like spins off of his body.
Yeah, he starts talking to them, and then it's suddenly like his head just starts exorcist spinning, and then he grabs it and goes, oh, does you hate it when that happens?
And
so he's just out of control. He's just like pure energy.
He is too much energy. And they kind of like, they're like, okay, how do we get out of this? And Barb just sort of turns around. She's like, home, home, home. And then we get this, and it's back. They're back at home. That's how they got out of it. And of course, I
like how Barb does heaps of stuff in this film.
Yeah.
It's not just Alec Baldwin being the main guy. Like, if anything, he can't read.
Yeah.
He can't do anything. And she actually solves everything. And I love it because I like Barb.
I think there's reasons behind it.
Yeah, so they walk home, and Beetlejuice doesn't notice this has happened. And
No.
he's still getting ready to go, yeah, we're going to be ready. It's going to be great. And he's like, hey, where'd you go? What's going on?
What's going on?
Little do they know they haven't put him back.
No. So he starts absolutely cracking the shits as well, which is fantastic.
Like, you fucking bunch of losers. Oh, he doesn't. Actually, he does swear.
He does.
He kicks over a tree. Like, so there's this little fake tree behind him, and he kicks it over, and he kicks it, and it falls, and he goes, nice fucking model.
Yeah.
And then grabs his dick, and he's like, huh. Like, and that's the one swear word you're allowed to have.
That is, because I think this was a PG-13 film, and in the 80s, you were allowed to say one fuck.
It's
in a
weird, isn't it?
PG-13
Why?
film.
Why?
I don't know.
I remember that as well. Like, all films had one, like, and they had to use it. But yeah, that's nice
And if
fucking
you're
model.
using fuck in a film back then, you make it count. You make your fucks count.
And
Anyway.
they get out of there and they're like, oh fuck, no, that dude's fucking intense. Let's not use him. And then they're like, and then Barb's like, I got a plan.
Yeah.
Goes like, we'll do it ourselves. We'll
Yeah.
haunt him out. Like, oh no, because there's a bit in it. She gets the idea because we've missed it. While that Beetlejuice was overwhelming them with things, he's like, I can do anything. I can possess people, and he possesses Barb for like a second.
Yeah, he's like, I can throw my voice, and he's like,
you learn to follow your voice, impress people at parties, and that's what
Yeah.
Barb says in his voice. So she's showing him how to possess people,
yeah,
and she's like, I've got an idea, like from that. So
it's gonna be good.
yeah,
That's right.
And yeah, we cut to the dinner party scene. We have two couples that have rocked up.
Yeah, so we've got a couple that we've not seen before. It's not the investor, it's someone new. And we've got Otho, and he's brought a friend.
Oh, yeah, like another weird, pretentious art meek woman who's like, a breeze would blow her over.
I kept thinking of Maris from Frasier, but
That's what I was going to say.
That's just because I've been
it's what
watching
you
a lot of
think
Frasier.
Maris is like, yeah.
But also she's like, I would like a single floating plum in perfume served in a man's hat.
Here you go.
That kind of people.
She is definitely, yeah.
They are very pretentious New York people.
New Yorkers. Anyhow, they're all there at the party. The house is fucking ghastly.
Ugh.
It's like you're all stone now.
It's very sterile. Like, it's not even sterile. It's very cold.
Cold.
Like, you would not feel comfortable there.
There's no wood.
No.
That's the problem. I'm a fucking wood fanatic.
You got wood.
I got wood. I got wood coming out of my
days.
Oh, I got it coming out of every pore. They're sitting at a big table. They're having an awkward conversations. They're kind of having jabs at each other because they're New Yorkers and everyone's all about, like, fucking someone else over.
That's right. They start talking about suicide for some reason, and Otho turns around and he's like, well, you know what they say about suicide? It's like they become civil servants in the afterlife.
And they're like, oh, how do you know
like,
about
how do you
that?
know that, Otho? And he's like, I used to be New York's premier paranormal researcher. Fucking hell.
And at that point, Lydia's like, I saw some ghosts.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, the child speaking again.
Delia doesn't want to talk. She's like, I don't want to talk about ghosts at all. She's
But
like, I don't
Otho's
wanna
interested.
Yeah, he's so interested.
He's like, tell me more about these ghosts, Lydia, that are in this house. And then Delia's like, no, I don't want to talk about that. And they're like, fine. What do you want to talk about then? And she pauses for a sec, and then basically the Day-O music starts.
Yeah.
Like, Day-O.
Yeah.
She starts singing it, and everyone's like, what the fuck?
I was like, what's happening? She's
This is
like,
pretty funny.
"Hey-oh."
But you can see that she's kind of not, she's like,
Yeah, she's like,
she's
what is
shocked.
happening? I'm not doing this. I'm not. And then this whole scene is awesome because then we get this whole musical scene, and Charles is like, "Are you doing this, Otho?" And he's like looking under the table. He's like trying to see if there's anything.
And then the beat kicks in, and then suddenly he starts doing
He's taken by it all. And then, of course, everyone at the table except for Lydia, who's sort of gotten up and she's standing in the corner. So she's not at the dinner table, but everyone at the table is now involved in this.
Is
and
possessed
it's like
by it.
involuntary dance sequence to this fucking calypso music.
Yeah, and they're like, because weirdly Adam's into calypso music.
He's very into calypso music.
So they've all been like possessed to basically mime this song, and they're dancing without their wills, but they're kind of weirdly having fun because it's weird.
Yeah. So, it's like they're letting the calypso take them, which is really funny because when I was at work the other day, the song that's played at the end was ended up on a playlist. And, of course, one of our customers, who is one of your customers, Dylan Stevens.
Oh, yeah.
He was in and he kind of noticed me kind of dancing at the counter and he started making fun of me.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, when calypso's on, you let the rhythm take you.
It's true.
He didn't have a
When I dance at work, it just freaks him out.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
So they're all dancing around. It's a very long, very famous kind of scene from
Probably
a film.
the most famous scene from the film, I'd say.
Yeah. And then the song starts to come to its end, and they sit down, and then basically they're pouring cocktails in front of them, burst out their like hands, and grab their faces, and then smash them back off their seats backwards, and then the prawns are laughing, going
Yeah.
and then that's the end of that scene.
It's
And then
such a
Adam and
great scene.
Barb like run up fucking into their attic, and like, oh my god, we did it!
They are
It's so
pleased
fucking...
as punch. They are like, we did it. And then they run over to the window like, okay, let's just wait.
Let's watch them scatter.
Let's watch them all run out in fear. But nothing happens.
Yeah,
nothing happens
any moment
at
now.
all.
Any
They're
moment now. No one comes out. And there's a knock at the door, and it's Lydia, and she's like, they want you to come down. They want to meet you.
And we cut back downstairs, and they've already sat down. They're already starting to come up with a plan.
They're fucking glowing
to monetize it.
Yeah, to monetize it. They're like, we're gonna have people come in, and like, Lydia will bring the ghosts. And
this will be like a paranormal like hub of this place, and we're gonna be doing this. We'll charge this. This is great. And we find out that the guy that's there is Delia's agent, and he's like, but we need real proof. If you want to get this investor out to come and look into this, because his wife's really into this shit, you need proof. We need more proof.
I'm like, what about happened tonight? And they're like, that wasn't proof. And I'm like,
yeah,
what?
That's proof.
Yeah.
Lydia comes downstairs and she's like, look, they won't come down. They were trying to scare you. They don't want to come down.
They're upset that you're not scared.
Yeah. And everyone starts to leave the house. And of course, like Delia's manager, he just basically turns to her and he's like, Delia, I have dealt with you for years. You have lost me money with your hideous art. You are a flake. And he just like fucking calls her out.
Flake's a massive bad thing to call someone.
That's terrible. Like, why would you say that to her?
Because they're New Yorkers and they're cunts. They want to pull down everyone and make themselves look better. Because, if you give someone praise, they might become better than you.
But everyone's left except for Otho, who for some reason, he's just like mooching around.
He just lives there, I think.
He's just mooching. He wants to know where they are. And so they all start heading up to the attic. And Delia just comes in with her super fucking big dick energy, and she's just banging on the door. She's just like, let us in. I will burn this place. Let us in.
I like that Charles the whole time is like, but the attic's locked. And they're like, they're ghosts.
Yeah.
And they run up and knock the door and goes, but the attic's locked. How do they get in and out? And goes, he just says it twice.
They're ghosts. It's fine.
Anyhow, they burst in. The door opens.
Yep.
And they burst in and they all burst in. They see the model and they're like, what the fuck? What's that? And like,
Charles is immediately obsessed with it and he gets down.
It's a whole town.
Otho's kind of looking around and he is a real fucking shady bitch as well. And he notices the handbook straight away.
And he pockets it.
And he like chucks it under his arm and everyone leaves and shut the door behind them.
Okay, they're ideally suddenly realizing we don't want them to leave. We don't want to scare them away. Let's all go out and they can just do their shit.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, we see Barb and Adam hanging out the window.
Look, but no one could see them anyway. Like,
No, only Lydia can see. They could be standing there in the corner and they won't see them.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's weird. Anyhow, we hear Beetlejuice laughing at them. As in they just did a shit job. He's sitting there going, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, it's so good. And, of course, we cut back to Charles trying to hatch a plan. So they walk out and then he's like, we could be doing this. Let's do this. And, of course, as they're walking down the stairs, we see Delia.
First Beetlejuice is like, time to have some fun because they haven't put him back yet.
No.
So he's like, he has free reign on doing whatever he wants.
Yeah. Delia starts walking down the stairs and, of course, she's running her hands down the banister. And we see that the banister has turned into a giant black snake and it's terrible. And we see this Beetlejuice-esque stop-motion sculpted face and he's just like there and he's like...
Yeah, it's like a Beetlejuice snake.
Like
it's basically the Freddy snake with Beetlejuice.
Pretty much, yeah, very much so. Otho tries to like run away because he's a cowardly bitch and whips him in the ass and he goes like falling down the stairs. And
then it grabs Charles and basically throws him off the balcony. Yeah. But this whole time, every time Beetlejuice is on screen, he's just saying lines. Yeah. Because Michael Keaton is just ad-libbing shit.
He ad-libbed 90%
He holds Charles up to him and he goes, we've come for your daughter, Chuck.
Yeah.
Like, just shit doesn't make sense.
It's crazy. And then, of course, so he drops him off the stairs.
Like 2 stories. It would have killed him.
Or at least seriously injured him. Bob ducks out and she's just like, Beetlejuice.
And he's like, oh no!
And sends him back.
And he basically it just shows like this banister going back to like being a banister. And then and Lydia's like, well, why are you doing this? Why? And I thought at this point, you know why they're doing it.
Yeah, so she starts having an absolute...
Because she doesn't know Beetlejuice exists.
No.
So she thinks it's them.
Well, it's all fun and games until you actually start hurting my parents. Because I don't really want that.
Yeah, it's true.
So she has a little hissy fit and she storms off to her room. And back in the attic, Barb and Beetlejuice start having an argument.
So this is when they're looking at him from up.
Yeah. Because she's standing over him, and she's just like wagging her finger at him.
No, but they know he's there because you see the steam smashing up from the model, and he's like driven a car into a Stobie pole, a tiny little model car, and it's like the steam of the radiators coming out.
Yeah.
And he's all pissed at them, like, you fucking ruined my thing. I had him there.
It's like, they were almost gonna leave. Like,
and the shot is really good. Like it's shot from like behind him, looking up at these two gigantic people, and it looks great.
Oh yeah, it looks fantastic.
Like I was like, I couldn't like, I couldn't fault that effect.
No.
I was like, it may be green screened in and stuff, but it just looks right. And it looks cool because the fake surrounding areas being a model look great because they are fake. And it's just like, such a good effect. This is like, without a doubt, Tim Burton's best film.
And he basically, so he's there and he's just like, I don't want anything. Like, he basically states that he's no longer interested in anyone but Lydia. He's like, I'm just like,
yeah. He just says he's gonna fuck with Lydia.
He's interested in her now.
And then this pisses off Barb. So she picks him up. He's this tiny little man. Like, he's only like a centimeter big. And she picks him up in her fingers. Like, don't you keep away from her. And then suddenly spikes just come out of Beetlejuice's body. Yeah. And she pinpricks him. And
she drops him. And he's like, so Michael Keaton's there. He's got all these like sort of rubber spikes in him, and he's just like, he gets up and he's like, I'm feeling a little
frisky,
anxious.
And
of course he's looking around and he turns and we see Dante's Inferno has appeared behind him, which is a whorehouse. And Barb even says, she's like, Adam, why did you put that there? He's like, I didn't.
Why did you build that?
And he kind of like, he's just like, oh yeah. And he's like sort of saunters over and he's like,
and there's all these like demon girls like blowing him kisses.
Come here there and stuff. And I'm like, this is fantastic.
And then all of a sudden we get the warp again, like as in like Adam and Barb get warped with the shot where they whoop, and we can see that they've warped back and now Juno, their caseworker, is there.
Yep. And so they're back in we are in Juno's office and she is surrounded by a football team. So an American
gridiron.
Big football team. And she's like, I made the whorehouse. She's like, you guys screwed up. You were photographed, you let Beetlejuice out, and you let Otho get hold of the fucking handbook.
And they didn't... What, Otho has a handbook?
Yeah. So they're like, what do you mean?
But we have to mention that there's all this dead gridiron team around the...
and they keep calling her coach.
Yeah. And they're like, where's the bathroom? You're like, you can't go to the bathroom. So basically, I think
she's like, I'm not your coach. He survived.
And they don't even know they're dead. And they're like blue and there's all gore coming out of their faces because they've been in a crash.
They all kind of like leave the room. She's like, what are you talking about? Fucking men's room. You're dead. And they kind of leave.
Anyway, she then, she's basically pissed at them that they're fucking everything up. Like they're not getting it right.
So they've just got to go fix it.
Yeah. I can't remember what's happening here.
I think that was it.
No, don't they have to change their faces here?
Oh, yeah. She's like, oh, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You show me.
She says, she says, you have to get them out.
Yep.
The deets. That is your goal.
Yeah, I think actually there's a few cuts in between while this is happening.
Okay, to Charles and Delia's hanging.
Yeah, so we cut to Charles and Delia sitting on the front deck, and they're talking about the investor coming out tonight. And we've really got to sell this whole thing. And of course, Otho is still there. And he's like in this kimono and he has a plan. And they're like, Otho, can you do this? He's like, I can do anything if I'm motivated. Like, Otho's great.
Also, Charles just has a little Band-Aid on his head after falling 2 stories head first down a shaft.
Yeah, because also we cut to Lydia in her room. She's listening to crazy operatic music. She's got her veil on and she's writing a suicide note.
Pretentious suicide note. And she keeps on like rewriting stuff to make it more drama.
I shall be plummeting. No. Falling. No. To my death.
So she's basically wants to commit suicide so she can be with Adam and Barb instead of her shit family.
That's right. Then we cut back to Juno yelling. She's like, get them out of the house. You do whatever you can to get them out of the house. And they go to leave. She's like, wait. Just so we are clear, what are you going to do?
Right, and they're like, what do you mean? Are you going to go back like that? What are you going to do? And then we get this. This was great, but I don't understand why this happens because no one can see them anyway.
Yeah, Lydia can see them, but that's not who you want to be scaring.
And they change their faces. So Adam's like, I'll go first. And he basically grabs the top of his head. No, he grabs his... I don't know what he does.
So he grabs his nose and the top of his head.
No,
and
he grabs his nose
them.
and puts his hand in his mouth and pushes his hand out the back of his head.
That's right.
To make it look like it's a rooster top.
Yeah.
Which is all... And this is all stop motion animation kind of thing. And then he pulls his eyes out and then crunches them in his hand. And then he has an eye on each hand.
Yeah.
And Barb just looks at him. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then she's like, not bad.
It's just like, you look great.
And then Barb... And then Juno's like, now you.
Yeah.
And so Barb grabs like her top jaw and bottom jaw and pulls it up into a giant like alligator. No, first she rolls her eyes back and hits her own head and her eyes fall into her head. Then pulls her mouth up so it's like a giant alligator mouth. And then her eyes pop up inside of her mouth.
Yep.
And it looks great.
Yeah, it does. It looks so good.
I think she looks heaps better than him.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I
Like,
definitely
because the eyes are moving in the puppet and the tongue's moving and everything's glistening and gross. And,
Yeah. Oh, I love that glisten.
Oh, yeah.
I love a glisten.
Anyway, that's just a really cool scene that I was obsessed with a kid and I used to draw that shit. And
Why wouldn't you be? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so they get up like that and they head back home.
basically, and Lydia comes into the attic to talk to them. And, of course, they come straight through as these hideous monsters.
Yeah.
And basically, she's just like, oh, what the fuck? And, like, instantly, so they don't even use it. Instantly, Barb turns back to herself.
Yep.
But Adam can't do it because he's dyslexic.
He's just like, so he's kind of like shielded himself away.
He's trying to
and
push
like,
his face back together,
back.
but he can't change back because he just doesn't know how to. But Barb clearly did.
Well, because also,
first she runs into Beetlejuice.
Yeah. So she's come in with a note looking for them, and instead she comes across Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah,
and he starts to manipulate her because he's like, "Oh, they're gone. They're gone. They're crossed over. They're on the other side. They're not coming back. It's gone. It's just me. I'm here." And he's like, "But I can help you. Like, I can bring them back. But in order to do that, like, you've got to say my name 3 times."
You got to let
She's
me
like,
out.
"Well, why can't you?" He's like, "Oh, I can't tell you my name because, you know,
rules.
if I tell you your name, then you're going to tell your friends, and then your friends are going to want to call me, and then all of a sudden he's like, then I'm going to have to be on the cover of, like, GQ." He's, like, wanking on. He's like, "I can't tell you, but what about charades? If we play charades, I can tell you through charades." So then they start playing charades, 2 words. First word, she's like, what? He's like, "Turn around." She turns around. She sees this beetle. It's like, "Hey,
a giant beetle sitting in the corner with a cigarette.
Yeah, it's very naked lunch.
Yeah,
very naked lunch.
And she's like, "Beetle." He's like, "Yep." First word.
Great, done.
And then he makes like a carton of juice appear in the air and pour in front of her. She's like,
Beetle
breakfast,
Beetle orange, and he's just like,
come on, and she's like, Beetlejuice. He's like, "That's it." He goes, she's like, "Your name is Beetlejuice?"
He's like, "Hey, that's two
times. But then she starts to wise up, and she's like,
"You were the snake, weren't you?"
And he's like, "What are you talking about, snake?"
He's like, "I don't know what he's saying." He's like, "I'm not a snake." He's like, "Just say my name." She's like,
I'm gonna ask Adam and Barb first.
Yeah,
he's also on the balcony of the whorehouse, just chilling.
Yeah, he's like,
he had like cucumbers on his eyes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And of course, Barb and Adam are walking back through the hall towards the house,
and that's when they come in.
They're in 2 minds. Like, she's like, I don't like the family, but I don't want to leave that little girl. Like, I love her. Like, I don't want. I'm 2 minds scaring her out of the house.
Because they've been there for a long time with her. Like, it's been over a period of like months and months and months.
Yeah, pretty much. They head back into the attic and they immediately stop Lydia from saying Beetlejuice for the 3rd time.
Because she was about to.
She was almost there. And then, so Barb turns herself back. Adam's like trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I skipped ahead. Sorry.
And they've like, we've decided that you guys can stay. We're all going to live here together. We're going to stay. Yeah,
so it's basically sorted out at this point, but it's Otho that fucks everything up from this point.
Yep.
So they were like, "It's fine. You know what? We can live together. It'll be fine. As long as we, we can keep the attic kind of thing. We'll do whatever."
Yeah, very much so.
But they don't want to like be paraded though.
No.
But they just want to live. They're cool with living together. Even though they've just been told that they have to get them out.
Yes.
It's weird, isn't it? I think that's the bit where they just say that they want to be with Lydia because they don't mention that to the caseworker.
No, they kind of like, well, up the rules. What's going to happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? So while this is happening, Charles and Otho come barreling up the stairs. Lydia.
Also, we get this like funny scene of like Adam like finally changes back, but his nose is massive.
His nose is still there, and he's just like, whoop, like shoves it back in. So Charles and Otho come in, they hide, and they start to unpack the model to bring it downstairs.
Also, we forgot to mention that Lydia says that she was going to kill herself to be with them, and they're like, no. You can't do that. It's bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Suicide
they're unpacking the model. They take the model downstairs and they set it up in the living room. And basically,
so Charles is downstairs and he starts giving a presentation to the investor.
He's using the model as like to show what the town is like and what they can do. Like, here's this here, we can potentially build this here and that and all that crap.
Yeah. So they start this paranormal town, and he's like, Lydia, you're here. Like, you go bring down the ghosts. And she's like, they're not here anymore.
And they're like, what?
And of course they're like, we're not. Like, what do you mean they're not here? Like, she's like, they've gone forever. And they're like, yeah, well, we're not relying on you. And of course,
oops, sorry.
They're like, well, we have Otho. And of course, Otho is such a shady bitch. He pulls out the book and he's like, yeah, I can do this. It's like, but I need something personal of theirs. And Lydia's like, well, you might as well check goodwill. Delia, she's like,
I know.
Actually, excuse me for a second. She runs off.
And she basically goes and gets their wedding gowns.
Yeah. So for some reason, she's kept them.
Well, I don't think they might. Yeah. They must have kept them.
Out of everything, she's kept them.
She might have had them in a box or something. She might have been wanting to use them for a future project.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, we cut to a seance scene now. Otho, it's all dimly lit. They're at the table. At the table?
Yeah.
And they have and then we have Adam and Barb's wedding clothes laid out on the table. Everyone's sitting around the table. They start the seance. Otho starts reading like nonsense passages out of the book. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then we cut upstairs to Barb and Adam just chilling out, and Barb suddenly starts to disappear and go clear, and she's like, she can't talk or anything like that. And Adam's like, what the fuck's going on? Where are you going? And she disappears, and then starts to reappear in her wedding dress, like filling it up like a balloon kind of thing,
which also looks amazing as well.
And that was my phone. I answered it, and now we're back. It was my friend saying he had to go to hospital and we can't go skateboarding.
Oh, poor soul. I wish I could skateboard and we could skateboard, but I can't skateboard, so I apologise. So one day I'll learn. Adam and Barb start to fade out completely as their wedding dresses fill. Once together, they start to sort of decay.
And at this point, when they're filling up, now the people can see them.
Yeah.
So this is like they've kind of transitioned them into reality.
Yeah. So they're almost the exorcised souls. So if they dive, that's it. They're going to be in that floaty room.
Yeah.
Of course, this is starting to get sad because Barb has completely sort of like she's just this like mummified corpse.
Yeah, they start to age really quick, and then.
It looks great. It looks fantastic as well how they've done it. Adam grabs Barb's hand and, of course, it crumbles in his hands, and they can't stop it.
And they also can't talk.
No.
They're like...
No. And Otho, everyone realizes what's happening and they're kind of not okay with it, and then they're like, oh, Otho, can you stop it? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then Lydia's like, stop it, they're dying. And then the guy's like, they can't, like the guy at the table was like, they can't die, they're already dead.
Yeah.
And she goes, look at them. And they're like real sad looking. And then Charles is like, Otho, stop this.
Yeah.
And he's stop like, this, Otho. And he's like, I don't know how. He goes, it's too late. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Lydia runs over to the model and she finds Beetlejuice sort of, and he's sitting there in his iconic striped outfit. He knows what's coming. He's sort of sitting, he's got his feet resting up on some headstones, and she's like, I need your help. And he's like, look, I can help you, but I want out, and I want out for good. And the only way that I can get out for good is if we get married. So she's like a 13.
So a ghost has to marry a living person.
She's like a 13-year-old as well. In this film, she's meant to be like 13.
Well, he doesn't care. He's just he
doesn't care.
He doesn't care who he's
And of course, she looks over and she looks back and she's like, okay, not a problem. Yep, sure. Just help my friends. And she's like... And, of course, this is something that is meant to be happening in a very timely manner because her friends are dying, and she's just like, Beetlejuice.
And then it cuts out to Beetlejuice, and it's that classic shot they use in all the VHS ads of him looking at the camera going, it's showtime. And then it's like
that was on every Blockbuster
video. It's showtime.
Yep. everything starts to sort of rumble.
The model, starts.
Yeah.
This is my favorite line ever. So so the model starts shaking. It cracks open in the middle. All the people like from the table like see this happen. They run over to the model, and then Beetlejuice like rises up out of the model. He's like this giant kind of.
He's like his own little theme park.
Because they want to make the ghost into I didn't click together that they want to make the ghost into a sideshow attraction. So he comes out as what they want.
Yeah.
And the line he says as he comes out, he's like, "Attention, Kmart shoppers."
Yeah. Yes.
Attention, Kmart shoppers.
I know, it's fantastic. He's got this like his arms are all kind of rolled up, and he's got this like merry-go-round.
Yeah, his arms are like gigantic long sticks that are like curled up.
Curled up.
Yeah, and a merry-go-round hat that has little monsters going around him, and he's in his striped suit. And he's giant as well.
He's getting big.
It's very weird.
So he rolls out his arms. The investors have gotten up, and they're really happy.
Everyone's stoked. They're like,
"This is fantastic." So his arms have completely rolled out, and they start to blow up into
giant
hammers. So like this, where you know how strong are you? The strongman one.
Yeah.
And of course, these two sort of
investors.
The investors, like something's popped up behind them, so it's like
the strongman thing that you hit and it hits the bell at the top.
Yeah, and of course, like this happens, and he just lifts them up and he smacks it down, and they go flying through the roof.
The investors and are just out of the shot.
Yeah,
and out of the
done.
Out of the thing.
They're not here.
Well,
anymore.
he had to. His deal was for her to marry him was to save Adam and Barb.
Yep.
And to get rid of the investors. So he got rid of the investors, and then he jumps down back into a Beetlejuice form, and he just basically snaps his fingers and points at Adam and Barb, and they fall down to the ground.
Yeah.
But they're no longer aging anymore, and they're slowly turning back to normal, but it's taking a while.
Yeah.
So he goes, "Oh, well, that's done now." So there's and kind of like Charles and Delia are like hugging each other.
They're just like together.
And they're kind of like in shock, but they're always smiling, trying to everything's fine.
This is okay. And of course, as this is happening, fucking Otho, he's trying to sneak off like the cowardly little bitch that he is. And of course, Beetlejuice sort of turns and he's like, bam!
He finger guns him.
And spotlight comes up. His suit rips off to
reveal.
So
Otho's always in black.
Yeah, and they're always very well tailored sort of suits, and of course it's ripped off to this very form-fitting sort of polyester.
And it's like a pastel blue suit. I never got this when I was younger. I'm like, why does he run off screaming? He's just in another suit, and I realize it's because he's so pretentious. He only dresses in black.
Yes,
and he's put him in the most ghastly outfit.
Exactly,
and that kills him basically.
Yeah.
He runs out of shot. Never in the film again.
Never. He's done. So Lydia runs over and she starts she grabs her parents. They're hugging, and of course Beetlejuice he's like, "Mom, Dad." He joins into the hug, and he's just like, here's yours. Here's your dad. Like, dowry's on me, Dad. And he hands him a snake. And I'm like, ugh.
And then he's like, "Well, I've took care of the people, took care of the Maitlands. What's next?" "Oh yeah." And he turns around. He's always instantly in clothes. Yeah. He's instantly in this red tuxedo, like a wedding, a groom. There's a groom?
Yeah.
Is that the word? Like a groomsman?
Yeah.
No, groom. The groom.
He's the groom.
And then Lydia looks at herself and she's suddenly in this gigantic red wedding dress.
Yeah.
Which is weird because she probably could have worn a white one because I'm pretty sure she's a virgin.
Pretty sure.
Doesn't matter. It's Beetlejuice.
It's goth. And of course it's time for the wedding. That's fine. He's trying to comb down his very matted and disgusting hair, and it's not working. Adam and Barb are starting to sort of become themselves again. Adam gets up to go and say Beetlejuice.
Because they need to say Beetlejuice 3 times to get him back in.
To send him back. But unfortunately, his jaw falls off, and he's just like, ooh, he can't say anything. The sculptures around start to move.
Beetlejuice says, "What else do we need?" "Oh, yes, witnesses.
Yeah.
So Delia's her art, her big sculptures come alive in the Tim Burton style of stop motion animation, and they basically grab Delia and Charles, they kind of wrap around them and hold them there to be
witnesses.
Yep. Delia's got this horrible fucking 80s Blossom hat. Heartbreak high hat on.
Oh my god. The fireplace changes. It becomes
now, this
very
is important to me. So this is Tim Burton.
Yes.
To me. So the fireplace is a normal fireplace, and it stretches up and becomes one of those very Tim Burton style doorways where it's all the wrong proportions. So it's like almost like a triangular shape, which is all of Tim Burton's stuff later on. Like,
Yeah.
is that? And to me, though, I was obsessed with that shape, and so much of my drawings are based on, like, if ever I draw a door, even now, I
It's
do it
still
that shape, like,
That's fair.
out of the way. And then through the fireplace, which is now turned into like a gateway portal door, basically comes through a grey alien priest. Like
I basically said it was the alien from the Night of the Creeps. From
yeah.
the very beginning of that film.
And he's the pastor.
Yeah, and he starts officiating the wedding.
And the marriage starts.
And of course, he's like, do you take this woman?
Do you, Beetlejuice?
He's like, don't say the B word. We don't say the
you
B
got
word.
to
Nope,
say
nope, nope.
Beetlejuice. No one says the B word.
And he's like, do you take this woman? And he sort of like, he jumps off screen. He's like, oh, geez, like, I don't know. Like, it's like, it's
I did it once. I said it only once. And
he starts to do this thing. And he comes back and he's like, yes. And he's like, do you, Lydia? And then, of course, she
starts to say Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
She's like, no, and then he like puts his hand over her mouth and then speaks for her in her voice and says yes.
It's like, I, Lydia Deeds of being sound, mind and body. He's like, I do love this man of mine, blah, 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 blah. Adam, of course, he steps forward to try and say Beetlejuice again.
Yeah, Adam's more like he can walk now. He's back, nearly back to normal.
But his teeth are ripped out, like his denture teeth are kind of ripped out.
Yeah,
on the
Beetlejuice
floor.
rips out his teeth, but he didn't get to say Beetle. He's like Beetle, and then Beetlejuice is like. Whoosh.
That's right. And then he starts like, he's like, let's just stop this. And he tries to step on and then of course we get this like funny little thing where the teeth are trying to like
chattering teeth around Beetlejuice's feet, and he's doing the dance.
Yeah.
And then he says scram.
Yeah.
Scram.
I love that so much. So Barb, she says Beetlejuice.
Yeah, she runs out, comes in and goes Beetlejuice, and he's like, ee!
He does the.
He does my E.
In my notes, he does the Dannery. He zips her lips. She says that she unzips her lips. She's like, Beetlejuice. And he immediately shoves like a metal plate.
He baseball pitches a metal plate onto her mouth with screws so she can't talk, and then zaps her to Saturn.
Yes.
But she doesn't have the plate on her mouth in Saturn, which is weird.
So she's transported to Saturn, and there's a sandworm immediately.
She turns around in her typical Jenna Davis, shocked face, which is always there. Yeah, there's a sandworm behind it. Anyway, we cut back. Adam goes to, I think, run in.
Yeah, so
he gets zapped, and then Beetlejuice zaps him to the model.
Yeah.
So he's tiny. And then Adam gets in the toy car that Beetlejuice was in before, and he drives off the side of the model, like, nee! And he drives along the floor. He's tiny and hits into Beetlejuice because it's about to be, it's about to say, like, I now pronounce you. Everyone's talking very slow.
Yep.
And Adam drives the little Matchbox car into the side of Beetlejuice's foot and explodes for some reason.
Yeah, and as this happens, the sandworm comes breaking through the roof with Barb riding on it, and it just immediately eats Beetlejuice.
And then Barb jumps off somehow and lands on her feet. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
They are in Saturn. But then again, maybe she got it to smash through the doorway.
Maybe.
And that's just how it kind of worked itself out of what it was doing. And then when it smashed down, it smashed back into Saturn.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Anyhow, then once again, Barb takes full fucking charge and sorts the fucking situation. So Beetlejuice has now been eaten by a sandworm. We assume he is gone.
Dead. He's dead again. And everything is A-okay. And then we get this very lovely sort of, both couples are standing there. They can see each other.
For the first time.
For the very first time. They're kind of smiling at each other. And then, Lydia's there and she's like, oh, harmony, yay. I'm also smiling.
I'm no longer goth. I have no reason to be goth anymore.
I have no reason to be sad.
Anyhow, we cut to a next day or some other time later to Mrs. Shannon's School for Girls, which is the most adorable little school.
It is. It's very, 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 very Little House on the Prairie.
Oh.
School's out. Lydia jumps on her bike, so she's in her uniform.
She's got some friends now at school.
She does,
They're
but
like,
she's
"Bye,
still
Lydia."
a little goth.
She's still got a half goth vibe happening.
Yeah. She rides her bike home, and then we cut to Barb and Adam. They're wallpapering one of the rooms, so the living area. They're turning it back.
So they've done a compromise, so some of the house is there, some of the house is there.
Yeah, which is very nice.
It'll be like having housemates now because you can see the ghosts.
Yeah.
Can everyone see the ghosts? Does that mean they live forever?
Like fame? No, I'm not sure. Who knows? Who knows how this works?
I want to learn how to fly.
Hi. Lydia walks in. They race over to her and they're like, okay, so did you get the paints? She's like, yes, I got the paints. I took photos of the new town hall for you. It's all good. And they're like, okay.
There's a town hall. Do you think that implies that the dad has built more structures in the town, but not to destroy the city?
Quite possibly.
The town, yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, how was your science test? And she's like, I had to dissect a frog.
I said, no way.
I said I wasn't going to do it because it was against my religion. So I got a C. She's like, okay, what about the math test? And she kind of looks.
No,
like,
science.
Science?
Wasn't it science?
No, science. She got
math.
the C. She's like, and he's like, but we studied. She's like, I got an A. And she's like, and they're like, yeah. So can I? Can I? And then, of course, they're like, I don't know. You got a C. She's like, oh, Adam, when did you ever get a C? And then, of course, the rocking chair. He looks over and the rocking chair starts to rock. And we get this calypso music starts playing again. We cut up to Charles in his office. He's reading a book, The Living and the Dead. And he's like, man, this thing reads like stereo instructions.
Well, I think that was another handbook for like people who want to like coexist.
Like coexist.
Yeah.
Which is great. And of course, this is all happening and, you know, shake, shake, shake your mambo. Work it all
so
the
Delia
time.
basically, Lydia starts floating.
Yeah.
And like miming this song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, must feel weird.
Yeah, it would be weird. We cut to the waiting room.
No, first we cut to like Delia comes in with a sculpture of Beetlejuice's face and scares Charles off his chair with it.
Yeah.
Which is the snake Beetlejuice.
She's like, oh, he likes it.
And I'm like, that's clearly just one of the props.
Yes. Oh, exactly.
From, 'cause it was so good.
100%. But yeah, so we cut to the waiting room and Beetlejuice is there and he starts running.
As in the death waiting room.
Yeah.
Afterlife waiting room.
And he's like running his legs across the torso.
The bottom half of the chopped up lady.
And she slaps him and he gets up and he's like, oh, like, I don't know what her problem is. And he sits next to the shrunken head and he starts looking at the very long number.
So he's got 99 million is his number.
Yeah.
And then he looks up and it's like, next serving, 4. He's like, ugh.
He notices that the witch doctor next to him has the 4 and he steals his number. And he's like,
Beetlejuice swaps his number over.
And he's like, oh, looks like I'm next, which is great because I got an appointment with GQ in like an hour or something. And of course, the witch doctor pulls something out of his bag.
Magic fairy dust.
Sprinkles it on his head and his head starts. She's like, what? Hey, what did you do? What?
Yeah, Beetlejuice's head starts to shrink down tiny. It goes about the size of a Matchbox car.
Yeah. And he's like, this could be a good look for me. And of course, we cut from there back to everyone's dancing now. So like Adam and Barb are dancing in the room. Lydia's floating in the air. She's having a good old time. And
then the gridiron players just appear behind her and they're dancing on the stairwell. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then cut to end.
Done.
The end.
End.
They all lived happily ever after and she got ghost friends.
Yeah, ghost friends. Woo!
Ghost friends. What are your final thoughts?
Okay. This movie's so much fun.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is brilliant. It's very upbeat, even for a film that's meant to be kind of like a little bit morose. Casting is just fucking phenomenal.
Bonkers. Except for that pedophile.
Michael Keaton is insanely good as Beetlejuice. Like
Michael Keaton is insanely good as an actor.
I know.
When you think of
But
him
this
as
is
like
next level.
The thing that made me realise it recently is when he played the Vulture in that Spider-Man movie. I'm like, he was the best thing.
Yes, he really was.
Every part of it, every line, every scene he was in, I was just like, do more, talk more, have more of him. When he like confronts Peter Parker when in the car before the prom, and just all that shit was just like perfect. Like,
yeah.
And then like you see Birdman and all those other films he's done, Batman.
Yes.
I mean, Batman was Batman.
I was going to say, like, so
hang on, that could be Tim Burton's nearly his best film.
Well, next to
I like this better.
Batman and Batman Returns, which I fucking love, this is probably my favorite Tim Burton film. Because as Tim Burton became more prominent I just did not like his films. They
just got rubbish.
Yeah.
He just like was basically trying to be Tim Burton in a Tim Burton, like his films had to be Tim Burton-esque.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, like how many like curly fucking things do you want to have in, all the things that curls on them?
Yeah. I mean, I am someone who does not enjoy A Nightmare Before Christmas. And I know he didn't direct that, but he did produce it and it was
And it had his stink all over it.
Stank. So your thoughts?
I I got so much more out of this watch than I did as a kid. I really liked it. Its structure worked. Its pacing works really good. Like every scene is interesting, and you're like, "What's going on? What's going on?" Mm-hmm. You forgive any like weirdness in like pacing as well because of the time, the use of time in it. So you're just like, "Yep, I'm cool with that." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel the whole part's where it makes you feel like the pacing is wrong. Is because that's how they feel with the time. They don't notice time going differently, and so I think that works for it.
Yep.
Yeah, but as I said, the Delia and the Lydia characters as an adult were just the same characters to me, just on two swings of the pendulum, like opposite ends, but the same characters. So it's like I didn't meld with Lydia.
Yeah.
I think I melded with Delia more. Like I enjoyed her.
Yeah, well, she's fantastic. And I think now it's really good to see her now because Catherine O'Hara has had such a resurgence because of Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek, which if you haven't watched, you should check it out.
One day.
So she's now become like this cult favorite, which is fantastic. So yeah, it's good to be reminded of how good she is as an actress.
What do we have any sweet notes? I mean, fun facts. Man, there's heaps of fun facts.
Oh, there's so many fun facts. So I've only got a couple written down here. So like we said earlier, Michael Keaton ad-libbed 90% of his lines in this film.
I wonder if it was just the tone they gave him.
Yeah. Probably. They're like just... So he also based his performance of Beetlejuice on Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh, nice.
Which... As I now knowing that and looking at it, I'm like, yeah, he really did. There's a lot of it there. Wes Craven was actually the first choice to direct this.
As I said to Claire, like when I read that fact about it, I was like, imagine the parallel universe where Wes Craven. I want to see that film. Like, how different would it be?
It would be so different.
And would it still kind of be the same film? Because, the script would be there and the vibe would be there, but what would it be like?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But then again, Wes Craven does do funny. Like, he did Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that. They had that humour vibe to them. But I reckon he would have taken it more as a horror film. Yeah.
It wouldn't have had the fun and fantasy that this film has.
Which is weird. Like, I put this it's fantasy. It's like it's like Labyrinth or something like that. You know, those full fantasy films that you watch as a kid.
Yeah.
Where it wouldn't have had that. It just would have been a horror film.
Yeah, exactly. So the visual effects budget was just $1 million, a major factor in Tim Burton's deciding to make the effects look as tacky and B-movie as possible.
But they all ended up being...
But they looked amazing.
It all ended up being like the opposite. Like,
yeah, but really it is a very B-movie sort of homage. But to a lot of the stuff there.
All the things that he's doing, like the bits with like the chopped off heads where you're just seeing someone walking out and like heads in tables or that worked in favour now because it still looked good.
Yeah.
It didn't look like, a CG mess or just like whatever they were doing at that time. It just aged really well.
Exactly. And he also feared that the Deo scene wouldn't go over well because he didn't think it was very funny. He turned out to be wrong, and it is literally one of the most iconic scenes in the film.
Yeah, that's funny. I always think of Deo.
Yeah.
I didn't know that song before that film.
No, well, that's how we know that song. Like, anytime I hear it on, like, if it for some reason pops up on a playlist on Spotify, I'm like, oh, Beetlejuice, yeah. That's cool.
What'd you give it?
So I gave this 3. it's a fun and dumb, it's classic that's worth a watch, and I also said it's a bit of a beer and chicken wing group movie.
Yeah, I gave it 2. I just gave it fun and dumb and a classic worth a watch. It definitely can have beers and chicken wings movie with it. It's just a great film. I actually when I was watching it, I messaged like the Millennial Movie Short group, and I was like, "Have you guys seen Beetlejuice?" Just in case they hadn't.
Yeah.
And like 2 of them had, but one of them hadn't. But like one of them, like because they're young, one of them, he's like, "My dad made me watch it." Like, and it's just like, yeah, that's the movie you do show a kid that you're like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really liked it, even as millennials.
Yeah, that's
even
good.
as that poor little turkey goblins that they are.
That's great. So for next week, I've decided to go a little in a different direction, but also still in the same direction of exorcisms. We're going to do Exorcist 3.
I've never seen this.
It's a fun one.
What?
So it's 1990.
Is it like Scary Movie?
It's not like Scary Movie. No, it's the third in the Exorcist franchise. But
you're going to make me watch the worst one, aren't you? This is going to be the shittest film.
This is the funnest of the 4. There's
fun.
Like 4 in the
I don't put the word fun and The Exorcist together, eh?
Brad Dourif's in it. It's
Are there any
fun.
vaginal stabbings with crucifixes?
I don't think there's any vaginal stabbings with crucifixes in this.
The point of making an Exorcist film if you don't get a good
look,
old Jesus fucking.
That's so very true. So yes, we will be watching The Exorcist 3 from 1990 next week.
Nice.
I'm excited. Thank you guys. You've been listening to TerrorVision Horror Podcast with Dan and Jennifer. We are available on all major podcasting services and also on the YouTubes. But no matter where you choose to consume us, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment or a review, and share with all your friends. I would like to reiterate, please share. We're trying to grow, and you sharing will help us grow.
Considering Facebook has no natural growth anymore.
I know, and I pay Facebook. Don't make me pay Facebook. You can interact with us on both Facebook and Instagram at TerrorVision Pod, and it'll keep you up to date with upcoming episodes, trivia, and of course memes that are 100% 3 years old by now. We also have TerrorVision@gmail.com if you want to get in contact with us that way. And yeah.
And remember, until next week, may all your dreams
Be nightmares.